A U.S. Capitol Police officer was killed after a man crashed his car into security checkpoint Friday. William Evans was an 18-year veteran of the agency. Another officer was hospitalized. The suspect was shot and killed on the scene after police say he attempted to attack officers with a knife. Authorities are investigating a possible motive. The attack comes 3 months after the January 6th Capitol insurrection, which killed one officer. Another died by suicide weeks later. The first week of former police officer Derek Chauvin's murder trial wrapped up Friday with testimony from the longest-serving officer in the Minneapolis Police Department, who said Chauvin violated police policy when he kneeled on George Floyd's neck for 9.5 minutes last May. As Floyd repeatedly gasped, "I can't breathe." This is Lieutenant Richard Zimmerman responding to questions from the prosecution.
What is your view of that use of force during that time period?
Totally unnecessary.
What do you mean?
Well, first of all, pulling him down to the ground, face down, and putting your knee on the neck for that amount of time is just uncalled for.
More police testimony is expected this week, including Minneapolis Police Chief Arredondo, who in June said Floyd's death was murder and, quote, not due to a lack of training. The U.S. and Iran will hold indirect talks this week in Vienna on a possible plan to bring both nations back into compliance with the 2015 nuclear agreement. The nations will negotiate through other parties for the deal now. Former President Trump unilaterally withdrew from the landmark deal in 2018 and reimposed sweeping sanctions on Iran. In Jordan, more than a dozen prominent figures have been arrested and are accused of plotting a coup against King Abdullah II. Among those detained by police Saturday were the former head of Jordan's royal court and a member of the royal family who once served as an envoy to Saudi Arabia. King Abdullah's half-brother, the former Crown Prince Hamza bin Hussein, said in a video statement he'd been put under house arrest with most of his lines of communication cut off. He accused Jordan's leaders of corruption, incompetence, and harassment, and said he would continue to disobey orders from the army not to speak with the outside world. In Britain, over 100 people were arrested Saturday during Kill the Bill protests in London as people marched around the country to stop a new bill which would increase police authority to crack down on peaceful demonstrations. This is a protester in London.
Because people should have the right to protest. Any country, any government needs to be held to account. And by protesting, you hold a government to account. Otherwise, it becomes a dictatorship.
In Somalia, 5 civilians were killed and 4 others
I think these guys should be
Saturday
called sad
after a
news
suicide
now.
bomber struck a tea shop in the capital Mogadishu.
are
There was no
always
immediate claim of
talking about
responsibility.
sad and
Earlier on
depressing
Saturday, al-Shabaab fighters attacked 2 key Somali military bases with car bombs and heavy gunfire. In India, at least 22 police officers were killed, more than 30 others injured after a pitched 4-hour gun battle with hundreds of Maoist fighters on Sunday. The police had been carrying out anti-insurgency operations in the central state of Chhattisgarh when they were ambushed by the Maoists. The rebels have been waging a 4-decade-long guerrilla campaign in support of India's indigenous people and other marginalized groups. At least 100 people have died after torrential rains triggered massive floods and landslides in Indonesia and East Timor Sunday. Most of the victims were in Indonesia. Thousands of homes were submerged. Indonesia's disaster agency says some 125 million people, or half the country, live in areas at risk of landslides, which is largely exacerbated by deforestation. Back in the United States, authorities in Florida are racing to prevent the catastrophic collapse of a 77-acre wastewater storage pond at an abandoned phosphate mine in the Tampa Bay area. Work crews have been pumping more than 20,000 gallons of contaminated water per minute from the Piney Point Reservoir into surrounding waterways after containment walls began leaking. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has ordered the evacuation of 300 homes. Manatee County Sheriff's officials initially ordered prisoners moved to the second floor of a jail near the pond, but later reversed the order, saying it posed a security risk. Some models predict a collapse.
Was she working for
a 20-foot-high wall of
some famous
water. This is
news
Manatee
network
County
like CNN?
Administrator Scott Hopes.
Something like
We're
that.
talking about the potential of about
Amy
600
Goodman.
million gallons within a matter of seconds and minutes leaving that retention pool and going around the surrounding area.
According to the EPA, phosphorus and nitrogen in the wastewater could cause algal blooms that may harm humans and kill fish. A warning to our audience, the following two stories contain graphic descriptions of police violence. In Texas, 7 Collin County sheriff officers were fired last week over their involvement in the killing of a 26-year-old black man, Marvin Scott III, who died in jail March 14th. Scott's family says he may have been suffering from a mental health crisis. Scott was arrested that day on misdemeanor marijuana possession charges. He had less than 2 ounces of marijuana on him. Before he died, officers put Scott on a restraint bed, pepper sprayed him, and covered his face with a spit mask. Protests have erupted in Chicago following a fatal police shooting last week of 13-year-old Adam Toledo. Police were called to the predominantly Latinx neighborhood of Little Village, where an officer started chasing Toledo. The officer then shot him, striking him in the chest. He was pronounced dead at the scene. Shortly
Did you
after
make
the
some
shooting,
trades
police
today,
alleged
Camel?
there was an armed
After
confrontation
you got
and
out of your
posted a
position?
photo on social media of a firearm on the ground. Body camera footage of Toledo's killing is expected to be released soon. Major League Baseball announced it will move its All-Star game and draft out of Atlanta to protest Georgia's recently passed voter suppression law. The highly contested legislation adds new voter ID requirements, shortens the window for absentee voting, severely limits ballot drop boxes, and grants the state power to intervene in elections in Democratic counties. And in labor news, over 1,300 steel workers in Pennsylvania, Ohio, New York, Massachusetts, and Connecticut are entering their second week on strike. United Steelworkers says Allegheny Technologies has refused to bargain in good faith with workers who are demanding fair wages, job security, and better health
really?
care. Meanwhile, in Alabama, over 1,000 mine workers are on
Did
strike
that
at
help you?
Warrior Met
Like, I
Coal.
mean,
Amazon workers
if they were
from
removing
Bessemer, about
pins, that
30
means
minutes
it's going
away
better,
from the
right?
mines, have been joining strikers on the picket line. Votes are still being tallied in Bessemer in what could become Amazon's first ever union. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The Quarantine Report. I'm Amy Goodman.
Thank you, Amy Goodman, for your quality report of the day.
I'm Max Kaiser. This is the Kaiser Report. Well, you know, the world can't be too messed up if the farmers in France are protesting and dumping truckloads of manure on government buildings. You know, all right is in the world. In other news, Stacy.
Of course, the French farmers dumping manure in front of government buildings is something I do recall from the early days of Kaiser Report and the early days of the last global financial
Elliott
crisis.
Wave
So
Principal
it could be a
TA.
sign that everything is about to go kaboom. They're a leading indicator. Remember, we talked about
Nice, nice. I like book.
that had been
You know what I
destroyed
bought
by
like
intervention from the command and
2 or 3
controllers?
years ago?
But
It's
this is
a
signal they cannot stop, and that's the French farmer.
e-reader tablet.
He's up and dumping manure on
I do read a lot of books, and
It's going down. And
that thing
Ponzi's
fucking
go
changed
boom.
my life,
That's our
man.
first headline. The SPAC market is in the
I have
process
hundreds of books.
detonating,
I
and
get
it
them
will
all
take the
free on the
Ponzi
internet, man.
sector with
It's
it. This is a
any
piece
book. You
written
can have
on
any book you want,
wallstreet.com.
and it's all in your pocket,
SPACs
man. It's
are
it's fucking
special
readable,
purpose
man. It's
acquisition companies,
helps you read
and
faster and
they
better.
involve
You can
these,
take notes on
PIPEs,
that,
which
man.
are
The
private
batteries, they
investment in
last for
public
fucking
equity.
months,
So
man.
there's,
If you're
anytime
smart
you have more
about it.
than one shell, when you're having to, Max used to be a magician in Times Square, and if you have to
The
start
orange
doing all
pill
that sort
guy.
of maneuver and moving these shares over there and that over there and this over there and that, but you, the shareholder, you, the retail person, are going to get rich, right? That's usually a sign that there's something going on. Well, this is arguing that the whole SPAC market, and last year in 2020, they went boom, they exploded in the amount. Just like in 1999, you saw a huge rush of IPOs in the dot-com bubble. Well, he's saying this is similar to that dot-com bubble where you have schemes of all these promoters and people pushing these SPACs, and they have insider shares that they get to dump. So he's saying that not only is the schedule of the unlocking of those shares by the insiders from 2020 now starting to unwind, so they're going to start dumping on the retail market, but also that interest rates, and this is where I think this guy is wrong on wallstreet.com. It's not Wolf Richter himself, but I think he's wrong that he thinks interest rates are going to go up and therefore the whole Ponzi scheme will fall apart. But you and I believe that the Fed runs this biggest Ponzi scheme of all, so they can't let any of the Ponzi.
You mean sound
end up buying
of the video or the sound of my
so
voice?
It touches on two major themes there.
Yeah.
One, as you point out there with interest rates, that the low rates are constantly enabling a pipeline of fraud, right?
Yes.
So, and all the mistakes are responded to by either a bailout by the government or this extend and pretend. You repackage all the fraud and you increase the maturity at a lower coupon rate. That's been going on for 40 years.
Is it better now?
And you're right to compare it to the dot-com era. Is probably the closest antecedent to the SPAC fraud in terms of the dot-com's era when the dot-com bubble hit in the 90s and companies would go public with just a few shares. And Wall Street was complicit in creating these enormous first-day pops. And then the unlocked shares would appear and these stocks would crash, and the NASDAQ lost 85% of its value, over $5 trillion in the ensuing crash of NASDAQ. But then that led to the mortgage
I think it's my
boom and
fucking
bust
mic,
of
man. I'm gonna go
2008,
get
was a repeat
a
of the
real
dot-com
fucking
crash, but repackaged.
microphone because
So the second major theme is that the Wall Street
the
fraud
headset I have now is
20s,
real shit.
they're not
Everyone's telling me
different.
like they can't fucking
They're
hear me,
repackaged,
and
rebranded.
wait, I'm gonna
and
switch my
sold
like
again.
laptop
It's the same wine
microphone.
in a new bottle. So the SPAC fraud is just a variation on the dot-com fraud, which is a variation on the mortgage subprime fraud, which is a variation on the portfolio insurance fraud of 1987. All of these periods of fraud on Wall Street, enabled by the media, enabled by Washington, D.C., a trifecta of fraud. That is, remember, fraud is the underlying business model of America.
And is it better now?
It would be negative 20%.
As you're pointing out, it also
All right.
during the dot-com boom, and also during that time, that boom was used to get rid of Glass-Steagall, to introduce the Commodities Futures Modernization Act, which enabled all the huge fraud on the quadrillions of dollars level in the derivatives market. But it also helped us export our jobs to China. So that's the underlying fraud in this situation, is that we don't manufacture anything here and we don't create much wealth. The companies like the tech giants don't have many employees, right? So they're not, they're just shuffling around. They're siphoning, they're scalping the economy.
Good evening, everyone. My name is David Elwood, and I want to welcome you here to the John F. Kennedy Jr. Forum at the Harvard Kennedy School. This is a special occasion for a number of reasons. The first is that this is the Albert H. Gordon Lecture, which was established in 1987 through a gift from Mr. Gordon, who received his undergraduate degree from Harvard in 1923 and his MBA in 1925. The lecture focused
has been successful.
No further ado, Kishore Mahambani.
That's it, man. That's it. How much you made?
Thank you, David. The trouble with having such a generous introduction like that is that after
Share
that,
your
everything is
results,
downhill.
man.
The best I
I
can
want
do
to
is sit
know,
down and
man.
keep quiet. But anyway, it's a great pleasure and delight to be here. And I'm really glad you highlighted the very special
I'm gonna be right back, man.
that our two schools have. And indeed, frankly, the Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy, which began in 2004, has been successful because it inherited a public policy program that was set up by the Harvard Kennedy School in Singapore in 91, I believe. So we've inherited a lot of from the wisdom and advice from the Harvard Kennedy School. I want to thank you very much for that. I also want to thank you for mentioning Mr. Lee Kuan Yew. As you know, who passed away. I think I'm not giving a big secret away if I say that he was a great fan of Harvard. And he really treasured the relationship that the Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy had established with the Harvard Kennedy School, and he strongly encouraged me to keep it up. And I think he'd be very happy to see that the Lee Kuan Yew School is being recognized here again at the Harvard Kennedy School. Now, let me try to now begin my remarks in 25 minutes to answer the question. I do have actually quite a long text, but I will not, I think it will be put up on your website of the Harvard Kennedy School, on my website too. What I'll give you is a kind of a summary of the lecture. But let me start at the beginning by saying that, you know, in America, I know you begin with a joke. Unfortunately, we Asians, we don't have jokes. I think the title of my next book will be Can Asians Joke? But I'm going to steal, frankly, literally, a joke that was told by one of my predecessors in this Albert A. Gordon series. His name was Richard Fisher. And this is how he began his lecture when he gave this Gordon lecture in 2009. He said, quote, "Yesterday morning as I got on the plane to fly up here, I turned to Nancy and I said," his wife Nancy, and said, "In your wildest dreams, do you ever envision me following in the footsteps of Mikhail Gorbachev, George H.W. Bush, David Rockefeller, and Ban Ki-moon in giving the Gordon lecture at the Kennedy School?" And Nancy replied, quote, "I hate to let you down, Richard, but after 35 years of marriage, you rarely appear in my wildest dreams." I think my wife who's here would say exactly the same thing. So anyway, to begin, you know, in the spirit of the again the Gordon lecture, who said we should talk about developments in the financial sphere, the way I'm going to deliver my remarks is that I'm going to first tell you 3 stories from the financial sector, and then later at the conclusion I'll explain to you why these 3 stories are important. And in terms of explaining and trying to answer the question, I'll first try to answer the question, of course, what are China's goals and aspirations as it tries to emerge and rise? Secondly, how has the relationship between the United States and China played a role in influencing the rise of China? And finally, try to answer make the point, and which is, I guess, the critical point I'm going to make at the very end, that how China behaves as number one will be very strongly influenced by how America behaves as number one. And that's why these 3 stories are important, and that's why I'll begin with them. The first story is about an event that happened at the height of the global financial crisis in 2008, 2009. And until that financial crisis came about, the Chinese were very happy that they had developed an interdependent relationship with the United States of America, so that while China relied on America to sell its exports and to buy its products, America in turn relied on China to buy U.S. Treasury bills and to make sure that, you know, the U.S. could continue to sell these Treasury bills overseas. So they both felt that, as Tom Friedman said in one of his columns, that they were joined at the hip in a mutually interdependent relationship. And indeed, I can tell you this, as a matter of fact, at the height of the crisis, when things looked really bad, the Bush administration actually sent an envoy to Beijing in 2008 and said, please continue buying U.S. Treasury bills, because that's what we need to preserve global financial stability. And the Chinese were happy to do so, and I suspect the Chinese even felt a bit smug. See, Americans depend on us. But then, lo and behold, about a month later, in a move that completely shocked the Chinese, the US Fed announced the first round of QE measures in November 2008. And if you know with the QE measures, essentially the US could print money to buy US Treasury bonds.
Hey man, $5. That's $5 you didn't have before that, man.
What's happened?
You gotta start slow and yeah, not 50x
The
everything, man.
Americans can just turn on
50xing everything, you know, you're gonna be right. Like, even if you're right 9 times out of 10, the one time you're wrong, that's where you get wrecked and you lose all your profits that you work so damn hard to get. So 50x everything is a very bad idea. I,
Today, however,
when I was like really low,
printing green
like when I had like
and
2000, I
by
would
relying on the
3x,
Federal Reserve's printing
and
press,
it was
the US has
growing up so
effectively told
fucking
other
fast, man.
nations,
1 week,
"It's our
BDC
dollar,
went down
it's your
like
problem."
25%.
So that's
I made
one
300% on my
about,
capital that I was trading with.
financial relationship
So 3x
between
is
US
way enough,
and China.
and it lets you
And you mentioned
buy
a second
again lower
story
to
from the
get out of
financial
a
world,
bad
which I
position.
think
So
not many people
yeah,
notice.
you don't need to
Now,
50x
again,
everything.
you must have, of course, you must have
Like I
heard
said,
that
man,
the United
it's
States has been prosecuting
trade
several
another
foreign
day.
banks, including HSBC, RBS, UBS, Credit Suisse, and
Live
Standard
to trade
Chartered.
another day, man.
Now, for example, Standard Chartered Bank was fined $340 million for making payments to Iran. And most Americans reacted with equanimity to this fine paid by Standard Chartered Bank and thought that the bank was just being fined for dealing with the evil Iranian regime. However, few Americans actually noticed that Standard Chartered Bank, which was domiciled in the UK, had broken no British laws and had not violated any UN Security Council sanctions, but because
long the Ponzi, everybody long the Ponzi ride. Yo, Bitcoin's back, alright. Yeah, goddamn. Yeah, yeah. Oh my God, we're back again. Brothers, sisters, everybody buying. We're gonna pump the Ponzi, we'll show you how. Oh, yeah. Straight to the moon, get your ticket now. Everybody line up, get your tickets, we're going to. Did you buy the dip? Yeah. Do you like rocket ships? Oh, what a you wanna try this shit? Yeah. We got everything you need, you first time. Angry cause I didn't buy enough, so I bought it all the way up to the top. Cause I said I needed more. Laughing at my family and friends, cause they kept telling me that it was a scam. But then it retraced about 80%, and I held on, I hodl, I sold at the bottom. Ooh, I sold the dip again last night, and ooh, this time I'm telling you, we are never, ever, ever selling back to Tether. We are never, ever, ever selling back to Tether. We've got lots of bitcoins, lots of shit coins, watch them bleed. But we are never, ever, ever, ever selling back to Tether. And then I bought it all back higher. I swore I'd never hodl it again, so I sold it when it hit like 7 grand. Then I bought it back at 12 and then again at 15, then bought more at 18. You might call me crazy, but ooh, I sold the dip again last night, and
Ed is probably going to get but man, the alt market right now is very, very bullish. Very.
selling back to Tether. We've got lots of bitcoins, lots of shit coins, watch them bleed.
Very bullish, my friend.
We are never, ever, ever, ever selling back to Tether.
I just got out of a stellar trade I had going for like almost a month. Yeah, last month BTC was fucking great to scalp and trade, but right now volatility is a bit low, you know, movement is not that great, so I don't trade Bitcoin right now. I trade ETH. I might be doing some Cardano trade. Yeah, exactly, man. I was fucking juicing Bitcoin last month. But last month, what I was really juicing, man, that was fucking Cardano, man. I made at least 100 of scalps on Cardano. If it's not more, if not more, man. I've made hundreds of trades. Like, I think I made like 2 or 3 million of volume just on Cardano last month, man. It was crazy. I've made thousands with Cardano, and that's fucking crazy. I think I made like $10,000 with Cardano, with like small trades and like bigger longs, and like with some crazy ass fucking fast scalping. I mean, I was trading while driving, man. So sometimes I would open a trade, go to the fucking how do you call it, supermarket, and come back, and I would have made like $500 because volatility on Cardano was like fucking 3% a minute. Yeah, that's a pretty wise position to have, because yeah, BTC is high and alts are not that high at the moment. I'd say Ethereum is pretty high, but you know, Stellar, Ripple, Ripple just got a huge fucking boost yesterday. Cardano, man, what's happening with Cardano, man? It's still at 121. Yeah, Cardano's cheap, man. Honestly, Cardano's pretty cheap. It went to 150 last month, so I might be trading Cardano, man. Oof, that's so fucking bullish. Right here, man. This is going up.
More mood swings than your pregnant wife. Emotion. emotion. When I first come to Vice City, I feel all lonely. A man on the outside, a foreigner. Then I say, Fernando, you like to talk a lot? So I get a well-paid job on the radio and begin to make my name as a successful DJ. Now I'm not so lonely, but I never forget my roots. I never forget, and so I always have a soft spot for foreigner. I've been waiting his next.
Yeah. Altcoin season might be starting. Don't know it yet. Yeah, I'm pretty bullish on alts right now. Ooh, that might be my fucking trade coming. Holy macaroni, man. Ripple at 9 cents. What the actual hell, man? Woo! I wish I had some Ripple, man. Damn. Ripple perp. Huh. Oh, what? That's... Oh, we might be trading Ripple today, man. Oh. That's fucking great volatility. What the hell? 2 minutes. 2% a minute, man. What the fuck? Yeah. Might put it here. Yeah, let's trade Ripple. Let's make it. Let's try.
We give you emotion 24/7, not just once a month.
Old Max, we go everywhere together, right?
35,000.
At Pet Stuffers, we know there's nothing like a relationship between a man and his dog. Sometimes you just can't let go.
Max, you didn't eat your food. That's the second week in a row. Max?
When the unspeakable happens, just put your four-legged friend in the refrigerator or freezer. Then call Pet Stuffers. We'll be there within a week to pick him up, and in less than a month, he'll be back as good as new. Through an ancient Egyptian miracle process called taxidermy, you and your best friend will always be together.
Yeah, that's a good dog.
Pet Stuffers, when you just can't let go. And coming soon, Grandparents Forever.
Highlighted hair? Vacant brain dead look in your eyes? Something missing?
Complete the look.
Complete the look with men's eyeliner at Vice City's one-stop shop for people who are cool when they cry.
Wow, you look ambiguous.
Complete the look.
Let's keep on breaking hearts and firing loins. Listen to me and more of this. Your Animotion.
We're all alone on the stage tonight. We've been told we're not afraid of the rules. We know our lines so well. We've said them so many times, time and time again. Mine and mine again. Ooh yeah, you're amazing. We think you're
Classic pop hits from the last 30 years.
They're the best music.
100.7 FM. Non-stop pop.
Okay, Los Santos, you're on non-stop pop. Dance and pop from the ages. Well, not all of the ages. Nothing Elizabethan, nothing from the Dark Ages, but from the last 30 years. Don't touch the dial. I've always wanted to say that. I've never seen a radio dial apart from in a movie. They don't have them. It's all digital now. Don't go anywhere. Stand still. Dance. Here we are with Amory. One thing.
Yeah, Ripple at 120. I can definitely see that. I think it's all time high. It's like $3, so why not? Like Bitcoin's at 60,000. Why wouldn't Ripple go back to its all time high? Yeah, 120 is definitely a reasonable target.
morning, good afternoon, happy Monday, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I am so glad that we are here together. Happy Monday, happy Easter. I hope you are well. Really looking forward. This is a special session today. We're going to be covering a lot. We're going to be talking about some important things to myself that I want to share with you, including when we're talking about trading Bitcoin lightly leveraged, when you should be scaling in, when you should be scaling out using real-time examples. We're going to talk about the very fact that a lot of people are going to lose money on Bitcoin. And we're going to talk about a little bit about exiting at the top. We're going to be doing it all together right now. This is a holiday special, a holiday special. I want to make sure that I remain in the flow. I want to make sure that I remain with my pulse on the market. I want to make sure that I get the most important trade that matters right. You know, I'm the guy that's out on the pitch at dark, practicing all night. I'm the guy, you know, who's working on his free throws, you know, after practice when everyone's going out for drinks. That's who I am. It's what I do. And that's why we're here together today. Everyone, really, really looking forward to it. I wish to give you all a big hug today. Glad to be back. Missed you all on Friday. All right, let's kick this off. Let's see how it goes. Today's a day, by the way, about having a lot of fun, enjoying what we do and how we do
What?
it.
I cannot trade Ripple. What the heck? What the
really
fuck?
Good, really calm.
I have to.
They have a sense of not only confidence but calmness about where they are in the cycle. They have really a lot of clarity that they feel good that they're going to get out as close as they can to the top.
What
they know
the
that a top's coming. That they understand the psychology of a market cycle. That this time is not different. We are well prepared. All right, everyone. What are we looking at? Bitcoin is trading what? 57,948, recovering off the lows overnight. We're seeing the equity markets definitely going.
Can't fucking trade
Buster, let's call it today.
XRP
briefly check in
perp.
over here. You see
What
the S&P 500
fuck?
set to open, unchanged.
Are you kidding
me? Look at this. I didn't even look at the charts on Friday. It was Good Friday. You know, very, very extraordinarily important day to me. I didn't even look at the charts, so I'm catching up over here. It was only a matter of time. We were aware of that. What about the NASDAQ? NASDAQ closed above an important level. Let's go ahead and make sure that we're aware of it. It's the level that we pointed out. It was 13,333. It's where my mouse is right now. It's the resistance over there. You can see when the price came back above it, it then retested that broken resistance, flipped it as support, and moving off. We said
Mr. Salty, man.
That it looked like
the
new
one and
all-time
only.
highs were in play. It was only a matter of time tracking that global liquidity over there. There's an insolvency event coming this weekend. Those macro guys, by the way, they really get it wrong, huh? Have you ever seen
Mr.
anyone
Salty
get it as wrong
Alien.
as a macro guy? I haven't in all my life. All right, what else are we looking at over here? The dollar's under a little bit of pressure, right? We're looking now for this level over here. If we get this far, we're looking at 92.55. That's an area that should hold. If it doesn't, we have this trend line over there. If that doesn't hold, then I flip-flop from going long the dollar back to short the dollar, because that's what the technicals say, right? I don't care about being right. I want to be on the right side of the trade. I'll do whatever it takes. What else are we looking at? Let's look at the corn. Let's see what's going on over here with Bitcoin over here. I want to talk about, before we get started, Michael Saylor. Michael, this morning in the Discord, went ahead and notified all of us. Michael Saylor tweeting over here that he purchased another 253 Bitcoins. $50 million, right? Average price, 59,339. Michael is signaling to each and every one of us that he is front-running all the corporations that are soon going to be announcing.
That's big news, man.
Every opportunity he's had ever since
Michael Saylor buys another.
He's gone ahead and he's made, for him,
91,000 Bitcoins, man.
That's
59,000. That's
announcing it.
wow.
That's listen.
That's so
rules
freaking
here.
bullish,
It's
man.
a public company. You can't be like, listen, the corporations are going to be announcing buy Bitcoin. So what's Michael doing over here? In my opinion, looks like he's signaling to all of us what is in play. Very nice over here. This is Brad's chart over here. Brad,
attends,
you're listening. Good morning. Giga Chad, he is. He certainly is. Over here, you can see over here.
Oh,
Look, is this
kids,
bullish,
kids.
bearish? What's going on over
So,
here?
Les gens t'entendaient sur le channel. Le compromettant. Ah ouais, c'est bon, c'est bon. C'est bon,
lightly leveraged, and asterisk. If you don't know, it's experts only. Sincerely, it's the best. It's the best trade there is, in my opinion. Right? Outperforms everything else but it's experts only. It's not something you jumped into if you don't know what you're doing. We have the Conquering the Markets live training session. Obviously those that are part of the training program, it's called How to Trade Bitcoin Lightly Leveraged. That's foundational. You have to start there. Assuming that most of you here have seen that, I'm going to talk about what's going on over here to the downside, when you should be lightening up with the current price here right now, when I'm planning on lightening up, right? And then we're going to talk about recently how we talked about the repair. Just want to make sure here on this special holiday session. Yeah, BNB, one of my great lifelong friends texted me this morning of a tweet that BNB, well, I think it was a tweet. It was early when I read it. That BNB was back into price discovery. 368. Wow. Okay, but I don't want to talk about BNB. I want to talk about the Bitcoin over here. And we're going to talk about both ways, the downside, the upside, everything, all sides. Make sure that we have it. By the way, Alvaro, good to see you here. Great morning. Everyone, if you're listening here, if you're glad to be here, go ahead and smash that like button. Let's get going here this morning, because it is Easter Monday. We're here together. Why? We're the ones doing the work. We're the ones who's going to get it right. We're going to talk about the exit later. We're the ones that are going to get it right. No question about that. All right. Let's get going over here. What I want to talk about is this tweet over here. When I said fully positioned and more, I first sent out this tweet to you. My eyes are focused on this spot. You could see this line over here. That line, you could see it right over here. That line is at let's call it 60,153. I told you my eyes were focused on that spot, and that if we traded above it, I thought that's it. We're going to new all-time highs, right? At this point over here, right, price made a higher high on this bar over here. It was on April the 2nd. And then I tweeted out to you, look, I'm fully positioned and more. And when I say more, I meant like more into the max. I am fully positioned to the max at that point. And I took it as price made the higher high over here. Boom. Didn't cross the line. I was rejected, fully positioned and more. Okay? Now, listen, you have to follow me, because there's two different things. What's up, my brother? Look, we have two different things to talk about over here. Okay? First, I'm talking about this right now, fully positioned and more. That's the key word. Some of you have learned to read in between the lines, not financial advice, of what I do and how I'm doing it and when I'm doing it. Those that are on Signal, for sure. There's no question about that. I want to talk about this, and then I'm going to talk about after what the normal lightly leveraged play is over here. Okay? So first, this is a bit more advanced. This is where I'm at right now. And I went over here on that little, right, barely made a higher high. Was I feeling it? Yep. Did I go for it? Yep. Fully positioned to the max. And then what happened? Let's take a look at that. We're on the 8-hour, and that's all you need to be. But before we jump back to the 8-hour, I want you to see on the 2-hour, right? I was focusing on this channel over here. You see that? Let me go ahead and make it darker. This is the easiest way. By the way, I'm in no rush today. No, my cadence for the past shows, for the past several weeks, has been pretty fast. I'm saying this right now to slow down a little bit, to enjoy the moment with you all. There's no rush. We get to enjoy this here today. All right. And there's going to be some good information shared. So, those that have ears. So I'm making this little support of this channel a little bit darker over here. Here was the upper resistance of this channel. I drew it on the 2-hour. No problem. Watch it on the 8-hour, right? And then you could see after I took this position over here, again, I'm going to talk about after quote unquote normal lightly leveraged, right? This was definitely fully positioned and more, okay? Now, what happens after you break down below the channel? Do you see the channel breaks and price close? Let me zoom in over here. You see price closing below that channel? And then you see it comes in for the retest, right? And the retest holds, it resumes off. Now, if you were fully positioned and more, do you think maybe something's wrong here? Do you think maybe that you should go back to just being maybe, lose the more, or maybe not. You still have this other line over here. Let me bring it to your attention over here. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Again, I'm going to try to slow down and not go too fast today. I want to make sure that we're focused on the technicals. Jordan, could you focus on the technicals? It's very important. It's very important. Look at this trend line over here, this trend line support that I was focused in on over here. Everyone who's following my work, my art, Jordan, you can't call technical analysis art. Anyone who's following my art knows how important this line has been recently over here. And you can see that what happens after this line over here, we close down below it, right? And then not only that, what happened after we closed down below it, right? We came in for a retest, and then look at right over here where we resume off, right? Now, if you were fully positioned in more, do you think over here, if you didn't light up over here, that you should light up over here? Is it better just to be lightly leveraged, you know? And when lightly leveraged, when just drop the more, you're still fully positioned. You're just not N more, okay? You're still fully positioned over here. But do you think that it's a good idea to maybe make sure that you're just fully positioned here? Why would you be fully positioned, right? Everyone knows this bull flag that we were tracking. Everyone knew the bull flag. Everyone knew the bull flag after it was clear it was a bull flag. We here were tracking the bull flag before anyone else on the internet was watching the bull flag. It just is what it is, right? Over here, now, listen, if you're fully positioned and you're above the bull flag, break out of the bull flag, do you stay fully positioned? IMO, in my opinion, for whatever that's worth, you know, not financial advice. Listen, I go over the charts, I go over the pretty colors, and I tell you what I see. It's to help bring clarity to myself, and if it helps you in your discernment process, that's awesome. That's why we do when we share, to help you firm up your own analysis. You're the one making the decisions, you know, and that's why I give credit to everyone. That's why I give credit to all of you who do what you do. There's no question about that, right? Here above the bull flag, this is technically super uber bullish. There's no question about it. If we break below this trend line, this was resistance, now should be support. The area is coming in somewhere around 53,500, right? How do I know that? Look, I could just take, I'll show you in a second. Take my word for it for a second. It's 53,500. If we trade below that, should you be fully positioned anymore? No, I don't. I'm lightening up on my trade. Something's wrong. Something technically is wrong, and then I will hold it. And what happens if we break below this lower support over here? Well, at that point, something's really wrong. And if that's something, I'm really lightening up, deleveraging my lightly leveraged position. I just want you to see what I'm doing, how I do it, and I hope it helps you. If I go ahead and I take this bull flag over here, the upper end resistance should be support right now. Just make it a little darker. And then I extend it to the right. You can see over here that if we break below it, price is coming in 50, let's be exact, right? Let's just get the area, 53,500, right where we thought, all right? That's how we arrived to there. So that all looks good, right? Everyone is on the same page over here. 450 likes. Well, it's a little light for the day that we're sharing, for the quality of the content we're sharing, but that's all good. Lots of love to all of you, that's for sure. Only like if you enjoy what's being presented to you. Only like the video here if you want others to see it. Only like the video if you're just grateful that we share this time together, right? So what happens now? You're just fully positioned here. You're fully positioned. When do you go ahead and do you, at this point, get back to fully positioned and more? Or I could tell you when. I'm not telling you when to do it. When would I do it, right? When would I do it? And by the way, if you want to just go ahead, someone that maybe you saw over the holidays, over the weekend, maybe they were a little bit into cryptocurrency but have no idea. Last year, it was a year ago, Easter, was sitting with friends, and someone was telling me that they just, some lawyer type, telling me they just, loaded up the truck, backed up the truck, and bought a bunch of XRP, and if it goes to $1, they're going to make bank. And I was sitting next to them, and I told them, no, get rid of that position. You have to buy Bitcoin. They didn't do it. Anyway, lawyers, they know. Here we go. Fully positioned to more. When do you get back to more over here? When do you get back to more over here? This is the line over here. The line remains, in my opinion. Over here we had a touch and a breakdown. Boom. Breakdown, retest, resumption off. Breakdown, retest, resumption off. Getting back above here, the market has showed me that it's repaired itself. I would not get fully positioned on more until we broke back above it. And if we break a buck, blah, 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 blah. If we break back above it, I will be fully positioned on more. And when you see the tweet and you see the more, then you'll know where I am and why. All right, what next? Well, that's it. We just covered everything on the lightly leveraged then, huh? We just covered everything that we could cover, focusing on the technicals, covering everything we need to know. Right now, price is uber bullish, right? However, I got to drop the more. However, if we repair it to the upside, that's where I will be fully positioned to more once again. And then we know on the downside where we need to start lightening up that lightly leveraged position, fully positioned. Because you should be, or at least I am, fully positioned. But if we break this bull flag, I will back into it. I will begin lightening up on that trade. If we break the lower end, something's very wrong, and I'm breaking down. I don't know if that coincides with Brad's chart over here. I would be interested. So by the way, I have it at 53,500 is when we break back into the bull flag. That would be breaking this trend line over here from this beautiful tight pattern clarity that we have. So that's coinciding together so that you could say that at that point, something's wrong. Now, how wrong it is, how long it will take to recover, I don't know. We don't need to talk about that right now. We'll talk about it if it occurs. By the way, we are very close. This line I have over here, is not the all-time high, but it sets us on to take out the new all-time high. It sets us back into price discovery, and it sets us, if you could see over here, in the first cycle at this point, once we made that all-time high, we went vertical. On the second cycle, once we cleared at this particular time, we're approximately 328 days after the halving event. And when we made that new all-time high, we went vertical. Am I expecting that we're going to go vertical here on the break of the all-time high? Well, I definitely think so. Absolutely. Brad's an artist. Not only that, Brad has gone ahead after watching the last training session we did together was beautiful. I wanted to say extraordinary because for me it was, and for a lot of you it was, and I forget the name right now, Ryan. That was beautiful, complimentary addition to over there. But Brad then went ahead and sent me some work over there. We're going to be talking about soon in one of the upcoming sessions. We're going to be really focusing on what the exit is going to look like for us. All right. So, but Brad's art is beautiful. Love it. And Brad, by the way, 1 year ago, or 11 months ago, I should say, started with Conquering the Markets in the training program. He loved it. He built the website. He was a web developer. He had zero experience in the markets. He never placed a trade. He never looked at a chart prior. Now he's crushing it. All right, there he is. The man, the myth, the artist, Brad. What's up, my brother? All right. Beautiful. That takes me into the second part. All right. That takes me into the second part of the session. The second part of the session is we're going to talk a little bit about the fact, because I feel like I did my work, right? Anyone here, in my opinion, 24 minutes into the session has a pretty Brad Matters, has a pretty good idea of what's going on over on Bitcoin all around, to the upside, to the downside, right where price is right now. That's why we're here. That's why I'm here. And what a pleasure to share it with you. All right. So second part over here. There are some people out there who, I don't think any of you, I don't think any of you. There are some people out there who think, well, how could no one lose money on Bitcoin, right? How could everyone you're deluding yourself if you think everyone's going to make money on Bitcoin. Let me just tell you straight out, there's no way that's going to happen in any way, shape, or form. It's an investment. There's enormous risk involved in any investment. Now, what I do is I weigh different risk. I weigh different markets, and I decide. I'm not one of those, hey, let me diversify my portfolio type guys, right? No, I figure out where is what I believe to be the most risk averse with the greatest return and concentrate my capital there. confident about what I'm doing. The reason I'm exiting the top in one go is because I'm confident in my ability to read price, and price is everything, and to understand cycles, and to understand what's going on, that I know where the exit is. I don't need to if you don't know where the exit is and you're scaling out in a general area, get on you. That's a good move. No question about that. All right. What I want to talk about this, though, is a couple of different ways that people could lose money. I have a friend. He's a famous actor. He bought the top of the last cycle. You know, not the top tick, but generally the top. Whether it was 19,000 or above, he still bought the top. Now, he said thereafter, listen, I'm just going to hold it. You know, whoever told him to buy it told him, don't worry, it's going to come back. He never lost money. He never lost money because he's holding Bitcoin, and Bitcoin right now is trading at $57,000. He bought it at 19. Good. He's not losing money. I know another famous actor, more famous than the first, and he bought Ethereum, right? He bought Ethereum this in 2020, you know, and then Ethereum, and he took a big position, right? And then as Ethereum went towards, you know, he sold at the end of December. So as Ethereum went towards $700, $725, you know, he sold it. In my opinion, that's losing money, right? Now, there are people who are actually going to enter a position and lose more money. But if you're leaving that much on the table, if you're selling that early in the cycle, that's, in my opinion, just as bad as losing money because you missed the whole trade. Right? The same thing as getting into the trade. If you're looking for diminishing returns, right? Lengthening cycles and diminishing returns, and you're not fully positioned into Bitcoin below 20,000 because you don't think we're going to trade above 20,000 anytime soon, that's just as bad. That's losing money. Now you also have other people, those that are selling during the bull market. Right? If you're a trader, the people who probably lose the most money in Bitcoin are traders.
If you bought
people who are trading Bitcoin,
20, then
you know, and when I say trading, I'm talking about on a short time frame, active traders.
I mean,
trying to selling Bitcoin during the bull market phase instead of strategy number 2, waiting for that pullback and scaling into that pullback. There are a lot of people losing a lot of money in this bull market.
Wow.
It may seem to you that it's a little bit difficult to lose money during this bull market, but a lot of people do not have the same awareness, right? A lot of people, as price was coming into 14.
Homer Simpson, you have 10 seconds to explain your actions before we open fire. It's my birthday. Es mi día primero. Wugang kai chu gong gong chou. Quack, quack, quack.
Gee, sorry. It's a pretty standard stunt, Homer.
I kicked one of those stupid itchy characters in the butt.
Yeah, there's just no way to resist it, is there?
We didn't have a message when we left. Oh, very odd.
Hello, Mother. Hello, Father. Here I am at Camp Granada.
Marge, is Lisa at Camp Granada? Cosby's first law of intergenerational perversity. No matter what you tell your child to do, it will always do the opposite. Huh? Don't you get it? You gotta use reverse psychology. That sounds too complicated. Okay, don't use reverse psychology. All right, I will.
I want all 5 T-shirts to say best vacation ever.
Attention, Marge Simpson. Your son has been arrested.
I'd be terribly embarrassed if I were that boy's mother.
Attention, Marge Simpson. We've also arrested your older, balder, fatter son.
Oh, Lisa, stop pining for your saxophone. I got you another instrument.
What is jug?
Lisa, never ever stop in the middle of a hoedown. Oh, honey, I didn't realize how much that horn meant to you. Don't worry. Daddy's gonna get it back. I don't know how, but I'll figure out something.
Thank you.
You know, Lisa, music helps Daddy think. I'm gonna write the best darn article. Oh, wait. Huh, take that, Uncle Sam! Hurry it up with the cards, Lenny. I've got you clocked at 2 miles per hour.
Come on, put that away. Those radar guns give you cancer.
All the more reason to hurry up. Hey, what could be going 100 miles per hour?
Jeez, we hardly made a dent in that 10-foot hoagie.
Oh, give it a good hope.
You've been eating that thing for a week. I think the mayonnaise is starting to turn.
2 more feet, and I can fit it in the fridge.
Homer, I found this behind the radiator. I really think you should throw it away.
Suggestion noted. Marge, I'd like to be alone with the sandwich for a moment.
Are you going to eat it?
Yes.
Remember, 'tis better to remain silent and be thoughtful than to open your mouth and remove all doubt.
What does that mean? You better say something or they'll think you're stupid. Takes one to know one. Swish.
Now I'm here to tell you about a remarkable new invention. Until now, this was the only way to get juice from an orange.
You mean there's a better way?
But that's all changed, thanks to the juice loosener. Let's meet the inventor, Dr. Nick Riviera.
Hello, Troy. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Dr. Nick.
Troy, would you like a glass of orange juice?
I sure would. But won't we have to pay those outrageous grocery store prices for something the farmer probably spit in?
Not anymore. All thanks to the new juice loosener.
Doctor, are you sure it's on? I can't hear a thing.
It's whisper quiet.
You got all that from one bag of oranges?
That's right. Order now, and you'll also get Sun and Run, the suntan lotion that's also a laxative.
Hans Mole Man Productions presents Man Getting Hit by Football.
This contest is over. Give that man the $10,000.
This isn't America's Funniest Home Videos.
But the ball is groin. It works at so many levels. Roll it again. Ow, pointy. Ew, slimy. Uh-oh, moving. Uh-huh. Oh, $20. I wanted a peanut. $20 can buy many peanuts. Explain how. Money can be exchanged for goods and services. Woohoo!
This is 1,000 monkeys working at 1,000 typewriters. Soon, they'll have written the greatest novel known to man. Let's see. It was the best of times. It was the blurst of times. You stupid monkey. All right, Homer. You can have the dental plan on one condition. You must resign as head of the union. Smithers, I'm beginning to think that Homer Simpson was not the brilliant tactician I thought he was.
I can't believe Auntie Gladys is really gone. Her legend will live forever.
Yeah, the legend of the dog-faced woman. Legend of the dog-faced woman. Oh, that's good.
Homer, that's very rude of you.
What?
Don't! And I just realized you insulted me. Now you will die.
Hey, Nutneck, your shoes untied.
From here they appear to be tied, but I will go in for a closer look.
Taxi! To the airport!
On closer inspection, these are loafers.
Well, Seymour, I made it, despite your directions.
Ah, Superintendent Chalmers, welcome. I hope you're prepared for an unforgettable luncheon.
Yeah.
Oh, ye gods! My roast is ruined! But what if I were to purchase fast food and disguise it as my own cooking? Delightfully devilish, Seymour.
Skinner with his crazy explanations. The superintendent's gonna need his medication. When he hears Skinner's lame exaggerations, there'll be trouble in town tonight.
Seymour! Superintendent, I was just stretching my calves on the windowsill. Isometric exercise. Care to join me?
Why is there smoke coming out of your oven, Seymour?
Oh, that isn't smoke. It's steam. Steam from the steamed clams we're having. Steamed clams.
Ooh.
Superintendent, I hope you're ready for mouth-watering hamburgers.
I thought we were having steamed clams.
No, I said steamed hams. That's what I call hamburgers.
You call hamburgers steamed hams?
Yes, it's a regional dialect.
What region?
Upstate New York.
Really? Well, I'm from Utica, and I've never heard anyone use the phrase steamed hams.
Oh, not in Utica. No, it's an Albany expression.
I see. You know, these hamburgers are quite similar to the ones they have at Krusty Burger.
Oh, no. Patented Skinner Burgers. Old family recipe.
For steamed hams.
Yes.
Yes, and you call them steamed hams despite the fact they are obviously grilled.
You know, one thing I should... Excuse me for 1 second.
Of course.
Oh, well, that was wonderful. Good time was had by all. I'm pooped.
Yes, I should be. Good Lord, what is happening in there?
Aurora Borealis?
Aurora Borealis. At this time of year, at this time of day, in this part of the country, localized entirely within your kitchen.
Yes.
May I see it?
No.
Seymour, the house is on fire!
No, Mother, it's just the Northern Lights.
Well, Seymour, you are an odd fellow, but I must say, you steam a good ham.
Help! Help!
An invitation to our high school reunion. Gee, that's odd. They didn't send one to you.
This is it, Homer. It's time to tell her the terrible secret from your past. Marge, I ate those fancy soaps you bought for the bathroom.
Oh, my God.
No, the other secret. Marge, I never graduated from high school.
Well, that still doesn't explain why you ate my soap. Wait, maybe it does.
Homer, are you all right?
No. Mr. Simpson, don't you worry. I watched Matlock in a bar last night. The sound wasn't on, but I think I got the gist of it.
Hear ye. The Court of Infernal Affairs is now in session.
Very well. But first, some ground rules. Number 1, we get bathroom breaks every half hour.
Agreed. Number 2, the jury will be chosen by me.
Agreed. No, wait.
Silence! I give you the jury of the damned. Benedict Arnold, Lizzie Borden, Richard Nixon.
But I'm not dead yet. In fact, I just wrote an article for Redbook.
Hey, listen, I did a favor for you.
Yes, master.
John Wilkes Booth, Blackbeard the Pirate, John Dillinger, and the starting line of the 1976 Philadelphia Flyers.
I'm sorry, Mr. Blackbeard. We're low on chairs, and this is the last one.
This chair be high, says I.
What'll he do?
Greetings, friend.
Dang.
I told you to unplug the phone.
But it could be my mother. How do you... Shoot!
That is it, Ned. If you don't unplug that phone right now, you're sleeping on the lawn.
Will you two shut up? People are trying to sleep.
Jingle bells.
Why are you doing that?
Oh.
Well, this time you must be punished.
Well, you could punish me, but...
No tricks, boy. I said I'm going to punish you, and come hell or high water, Wait a minute. Ice cream truck! Me, I was there first. Now, what were we talking about, boy?
We were talking about the time you beat jury duty.
Oh, yeah. The trick is to say you're prejudiced against all races.
Aw, jeez. Millhouse, how could you let this happen? You were supposed to be the night watchman.
I was watching. I saw the whole thing. First it started falling over, then it fell over.
Wow. I wonder where all the rats are gonna go.
Okay, everybody tuck your pants into your socks.
Women always have trouble with the wall. Can't ever seem to find a door. You missed the baby? You missed the blind man?
Just take the money and get out. What? Oh, Apu, I would never. Or would I? I've already gone this far. I wonder what my life would be like if I robbed the Quickie Mart. I'll do it. I'll rob the Quickie Mart. All right, put your... Down!
All right, here are your exams. 50 questions. True or false?
True.
Homer, I was just describing the test.
True.
Look, Homer, just take the test and you'll do fine.
False. All right, Brain. You don't like me and I don't like you. But let's just do this and I can get back to killing you with beer. It's a deal. White.
My son up there.
What, the balding fat ass?
No, the Hindu guy.
The sum of the square roots of any two sides of an isosceles triangle is equal to the square root of the remaining side.
That's a right triangle, you idiot!
Hello, my name is Mr. Burns. I believe you have a letter for me.
Okay, Mr. Burns. What's your first name?
I don't know. Great plan, Bart. Why, you little...
What the? Don't!
So you like donuts, eh? Well, have all the donuts in the world!
More.
I don't understand it. James Coco went mad in 15 minutes.
What do you mean you lost him? He might have fallen into one of these machines. Oh my God, that's his lucky red hat. He's a box. My boy's a box. Damn you! A box! To alcohol, the cause of and solution to all of life's problems. Look at those phonies sucking up to Bush. I guess you might say he's barking up the wrong bush. There it is, Homer. The cleverest thing you'll ever say, and nobody heard it. Go! Well, at least I liked it. Didn't I? Oh, you don't want to know what I really think. Now look sad and say Joe. Joe.
Dad may have gained a little weight, but he's not some kind of food-crazed maniac.
Oh, the raspberry. The Widowmaker. Oh, that one's for the ladies. Spine buster. Boring.
Oh, crypto
under one of my old videos,
on
like,
the
it was crazy. Within the span of 10 seconds, all these comments popped up, and then replies to that comment popped up, and all of these accounts were like fake bots, and they all look real. All had like legit looking names. Like you click them, some of them have like subscribers. There's like an army of fake social media accounts, probably bigger than the actual population of people on social media. It's like man versus bot. Yeah, the bots are talking to each other too. They like reply to each other and flop and grope together.
Maybe we're gonna see 60k BTC tonight. If crypto face is on the lawn.
NPCs, dude, yes. NPCs. This is like a PvE. We're PvEing. It's player versus environment. It's not even people. If you guys bought Market Cipher and you're still not in the members Discord, we actually have a special email for you. It's called discord@marketciphertrading.com. If you email that, our mods will help you. One thing we found, guys, is that people's like phone numbers have already been used by like bot accounts to like make Discord profiles. One guy was like, I've never signed up to Discord in my life, but my phone's attached to an account. What do I do? And like, some bot must have like used his phone number or some shit.
It's like when people went to vote in this election and they were already registered and apparently already voted. Like, what the hell? I didn't vote.
Yeah. If they don't have a bot there, they just like convert you to a data point.
Whale Cruise closed. We're not taking new members. Don't fall for scams. Short-term target price for Bitcoin, probably 60K. Also drinking some coffee. I just got back from running a bunch of errands. Discord at marketcyphertrading.com was the email. Ooh, ETH must be still pumping here. It's probably at 2140. Yep. Nice. Go.
I love ETH, dude. You know, I learned all my mistakes as a trader during that bear market of Bitcoin from 2018 to 2019 or whatever, but Ethereum was what saved my ass, dude. I love it.
Omar, you put your life savings into Bitcoin, you're being whale crew. That's the last thing we're looking for to be in whale crew, man. We don't want flopping, groping people that are fucking doing that type of stuff, man. At least you're 20, so you're young and you know you can take those kind of risks. But that's the opposite of the type of person we want in there, who's gonna be flopping and groping.
Yeah, dude, we need people that can operate from abundance and not flopping with every freaking signal. Because that's gonna affect CryptoFace's psychology.
And dude, I don't hold your hand with everything. It's up to you to when to sell your position and to set stops below your entry. I'm not there to manage your trade for you in every fucking move, dude. You're supposed to be a better trader and take responsibility.
Yeah, you definitely give that to the whale crew, like really good entries and shit. But I think people probably have like a fantastical idea of what it's like in that whale crew. It's just other sharing his ideas. It's not like, oh, here's the exact level, here's the stop loss, here's the leverage, here's a consultant to help you and powder your ass and tell you you're cool.
Yeah,
like,
once in a while, like this last trade, I was like, yo, my stop is here, like I'm entered here, you know, this is kind of a semi-target. I said when I exited half, like some I do, but nah, you're I ain't there to hold your hand, that's for damn sure.
Best way I describe my brother's trading style is like he's a momentum trader, so he knows which way it's going. But if you ask him about specifics, he's just gonna rage at you. It's gonna pop a blood vessel.
We've been saying 100 times for the past 20 minutes that Whale Crew is closed to new members. We're not taking new members. When we do, I will announce it here and only here.
Yes, rage is good. Rage into that good night. How to stop the COVID. Coughing Grover.
Hourly's still looking good. We'll see if this VWAP can pull up and spill into the higher time frames and gain strength. We re-entered throughout here. Entered some more. Currently about 280 or so grand unrealized on Bitcoin, 2,700 on ETH. A few stops set just in case the flash cram. Because I don't trade shit coins, they're riskier. I can't leverage as much. It's too risky. And in order for me to make the same amount as I would or more as Bitcoin, I would have to risk my risk would be 20 times more. Thanks, Cameron and D, for your donations. All donations go to charity, mostly kids with cancer and wounded soldiers.
crowning yet? Oh my god, we're crowning. Dude, and we've got the Himalayan wee music. I love this music. What does crowning mean? Like a baby's head coming out of a, you know what? Crowning? It's not a trade term, guys. I'm sorry. I'm just being myself.
Yeah, fuck it. I'm gonna long Adam, man.
I'll spread my legs and I'll show you what crowning means.
Nice anchor trigger wave on ETH. That led to that little pump. 12-hour green dot on ETH. Money flow is coming up to the upside, thick coming up. Wow, ETH looks really good on the 12-hour. Increasing money flow, increasing VWAP, green dots. Still thick, potentially diverging on the 2-day. ETH looks great right now. Charlie Lee, oh my lord. Look at that. Wow, what a beauty on Litecoin. Anchor, trigger, bam. Wow.
Yeah, man, it's prairie dogging. Some meerkat action. We'll see if it goes back in the hole. What's up, Pradik? Good to have, bro.
Adrian, you get access to the Market Cipher Discord when you get Market Cipher.
Yeah, if you guys bought MC and you're not in the Discord members group, email discord@marketciphertrading.com and our mods will help you.
Cheers, V.
There's no reason not to be in there.
No, the spider lines are just trend lines. Nothing to do with Market Cipher, nor will it be.
There's not signals. We don't do signals in the Market Cipher Discord. It's like a TA group. We're teaching people to fish in. Teaching people to fish, and it's fully staffed. We got mods there to help you answer all your questions pertaining to the indicators.
What's the news with Digitex? Can you do it?
Last I checked, they were doing webcam. Webcam.
Draw the spider lines. They come from the weekly. I have a million videos where I'm drawing spider lines. A titled video from a month ago on how to do that.
If you guys are complaining about noobs in the Market Cipher Discord, like, if you're not a noob, then stop going into the noob chats and start trading. Like, there's gonna be people coming into MC, like, asking questions, like, I know we call people flopping and gross, but instead of hating on all the people in there, like, just start trading. Discord's not a waste. At the end of the day, it's a groper index. You go in there, are the gropers flopping? That's volatility. That's an indication. So there's always value in the chats. It's up to you to just be a dumbass and like follow random people into trades. It's like in our disclaimer that you shouldn't listen to people in the Discord. You know, you shouldn't take everything without a grain of salt. Listen, you don't want to underestimate the flopping gropers in the Discord because it's kind of like how a child sometimes predicts things super accurately because they're not biased with all that adult knowledge. Sometimes noobs point out something super obvious that you're overthinking. But yeah, if you see people flopping and groping and it's like annoying, like that is an indication in itself, right? Just don't directly apply it to your strategy. Like trade you your own individual. And if you think I sound like a dick, well then how the hell do you know what dicks sound like? Get flopped on. You got flopped on me. You guys should check out my latest video. It's really good. It's only like 6 minutes long. You could like take a poop and watch it. know I posted videos, Timmy? You didn't know I... You didn't know, bro? Candles are printing red, which means my brother had to go. That usually happens when he leaves the computer. I'm sure he'll be back.
I want to go to China again. To Shanghai.
Yes, there was a daily wave crossing green dot, but it's not confirmed. It is confirmed on the 22-hour, though. I don't recommend or sponsor any like VPNs. Like they all work. Do your own research. There's not a single VPN that I trust on mobile. Like I never try to like do anything like that on my phone. I do it all on
Thanks for
my
your donation, $200, D Martinis, in the name of charity. I'm a little late to it, but thank you. I have no prediction over the next 24 hours. Looks like we're having a little momentum crossing.
my jammies on, man. I'm ready for a long night.
Ooh, yeah, wow, Coinbase is tripping. There was a wick down to 58K.
Put your FOMO diaper on, folks.
Hey man, don't hate the coin. Hate your trades. Man, yeah, but
I feel nothing.
I get the
I
feeling
feel
because
nothing.
me too.
I'm so numb.
When I get
Yeah,
stuck
me
on a
too.
bad trade, I fucking it gets emotional, man. I fucking hate the fucking coin after that, man. Like I'm not trading this shit again, never again. Then it goes like to the moon, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get back in, but I don't.
Right down that spider line. It literally just wicked to the spider line and got shot back up.
Let's check the chats. Is there fear? Is there meme? Any pain signatures in the chat?
I'm taking some profits. See if I can catch some limit knives.
Alright, man, let's see where this is going. Where is it gonna go? Here, here, here. What is CryptoFace doing? Oh,
Told
CryptoFace
you.
is selling. Oh, that's not good.
Someone's like, I told you.
Oh.
Boom. Boom. Yeah, I mean, that was pretty cool. I mean, the momentum cross before that. I mean, the shit's real, folks. Shit's real. It's cool.
Everyone's in a different situation, you know. Some people can recharge the position, put more in at a point like that, but you want to lock in profits, so I doubt he's closing the entire trade.
I'm closing the entire trade, huh?
And we're
Oh
flipping.
fuck, I was on
short.
mute.
All
The stream
the
couldn't
stream's
hear
over.
me.
Oh,
I was
shit.
on mute from the stream. I was on mute from the stream. I'm closing the entire trade.
Those are take profit conditionals. You see how they're red? That means those are shorters. You should be able to just look at the screen and see what's going on here. I only leave trades open overnight if I want to wake up holding a big shit bag.
Shit bag.
You gotta just stay up 3 days in a row and then have a big sleep. It's called the big sleep. You got liquidated, dog. Try not to let trades fall below your entry. You gotta cut the shit bags, bro. This market can and will take everything it can. Everything you let it take, it'll take. I mean, your risk in that trade, obviously, now that you liquidated, the risk was everything you put in the trade. So was the risk worth the reward, bro? You're on too high leverage and it slip under your entry, so that'll open
Hey
liquidation.
man, it's my
to your
fucking pleasure,
portfolio,
man.
bro.
I mean, thanks for watching, honestly. Makes my trading day much more enjoyable.
I don't know a single person making profit with a 100x strategy. It's like 15% if you use the market order. He's shorting and longing at the same time because on Bybit, you can only have one position open per coin. And so if you put a short order in while you're long, it'll just reduce your long. So he's tending to his fatty long position here by hovering a bunch of short conditional orders above it. So if it does go down there, it'll cover his fees and saves his ass. I'd say these conditionals he placed are pretty conserved. These are conserved conditional orders. He's losing the potential of a lot of profit, but he's reducing the chance of liquidation overall.
They're not shorts. They're stops. So I'm not shorting and longing at the same time. They're just conditional.
I'm just trying to explain it in layman's terms because they see like the red orders and the green, and you know.
Just get rid of them. That's why I hide them most of the time.
If you've lost 15 trades in a row, first I commend you for being able to trade 15 times in a row. That means your risk management's probably not bad, but your TA probably needs work.
Your mental probably needs work.
You're not like reading the charts right if your win rate is that bad. But if your win rate was good, but you're still losing because your losses are huge, that would indicate risk management issue. I'll be right back.
you're all pale and hunched over like Schmeagol from Lord of the Rings. And you haven't taken out the trash in 3 weeks. I'm worried I'm losing you, and
Worry not, my love. I am glad you finally asked. I trade cryptocurrencies, you see.
Cryptocurrency?
Yes, cryptocurrency. A cryptocurrency is just digital money. It uses decentralized blockchain technology as opposed to the current central banking system, and each person acts like their own bank, verifying each individual transaction on a public ledger, which is then cross-verified by everyone on the network in a matter of seconds, thus guaranteeing trust between private individuals and removing the need for a central government to ensure mutual exchange of goods and services between people. It's the future of money.
But none of that made any sense. Digital money, mutual exchange, and what even is a crypto? Decentralized blockchain? That's the least sexiest phrase I've ever heard.
You won't be saying that when you're sipping on pina coladas with me on the Oracle's private yacht, or picking out the travertine for that new open kitchen remodel you always wanted. Besides, it's way better than all the other terrible things I was doing on the internet before crypto came around.
I guess you're right, but I still want to know more. It's just so confusing still.
Oh, my dear, you have much to learn, but it's just too much to explain with mere words, so let me show you. There was an old lady who lived in a shoe. All her money was in crypto, and she didn't know what to do. She couldn't get a loan or finance her home. Then she lost her private keys in the move.
Private keys?
Private keys are...
Progress? I hope so, sir. Would it be all right with the generals if we took that close-up now?
All right with you, General?
Well, not by me. Oh, fine. Bring him move it in, will you? That's all right. The boy last. Now get it. Set? Yeah. I'll roll him. All right. Would the general say a few words, please? To the camera.
Wait a minute. This is war. When we have won it, there'll be time for speeches.
That's your job, isn't it? Yes, sir.
Let the soldier make the speeches.
Well, what'll I say, General?
I suggest you tell your men something about our people. In the factories, in the pubs, on the farms. The people they'll meet and be with. Tell them about their problems. Big problems, little problems. Put Spirit of the Theater into it.
Put all you've got in it. That's the way you win victories on the battlefield. Put yourself in it.
Well, you know, I'm just the guy to show you around England. Sure, I know all about it. Why shouldn't I? I've been here 3 weeks. Well, first thing I think we ought to take a look at is an English pub. Yeah, let's get away from these docks, because I know a little country pub is just the sort of a place you fellas will be seeing. Come on, come on. We'll get to that later. Let's go inside. Come on. Oh, wait. Before we go in, let me tell you a little about an English pub. It's not like a saloon. It's more like a club. A club for men and women who haven't a great deal of money and who don't drink for the sake of drinking, but for the company. Now, these pubs are open for a couple of hours in the middle of the day, and then again in the early evening. And men and women, after their day's work, and they work long and hard hours, come in for a bitter or mild. Oh, that's beer to you. And incidentally, the beer isn't cold in England. No, they don't like it cold, and they haven't any ice, see? So if you like beer, you better like it warm. What's that? Difference between bitter and mild? I don't know. One's bitter and one's mild. You better find out for yourself. Anyway, these same people have been coming into this same pub for many years, and their grandfathers and their great-grandfathers came in before them. This particular pub, for instance, was founded about the time that our country was founded. So, well, come on, take a look. There you are, you see? That'll give you a general idea. Over there, there's a father and his sailor son. They play quiet games like shove halfpenny. Requires patience.
How's that, Dad? That's your thing, son. Just right.
The loser buys the next drink, maybe. This game isn't over yet, but the old man will win. He always does. And here they all gather. Ladies, too. Wives and mothers.
Yeah, that's a nice job of pork. Do you good.
Thanks, Doc.
Yeah, Aggie.
Cheerio, Bill.
Pretty awesome.
All very sedate. Like I said, it's a sort of club. Now, there are always one or two old philosophers who come in and silently consider the ways of the world. I guess they reach tremendous conclusions, but they keep these to themselves. And always there is the inevitable dart game. No pub is without one. You'll be playing it, too. It's very relaxing after a day in the field. But whatever they are doing, whether it's smoking a pipe or reading the House of Commons debate like this fella, until they finish doing what they're doing, they like to be left alone. Get a load of this.
What you fellas could do with a pair of good old American dice. That's a girl's game. Well, England, here I am. Well, this looks like an interesting corner. Hiya, babe. What you doing tonight?
Car washing. What are you having?
You're really a hip tomato. I'll have a slug of bourbon. Is this stuff any good?
Well, it's supposed to be.
I got 1 million of them, honey.
That's bad. Don't throw your money around like that. Don't fool around with those Scotchmen. They're tough babies.
20 years a chambermaid and never cracked a pot.
He makes it tough for the rest of us.
What a character. What are these things for? Good conduct?
How do you like it over here, Yank?
Well, you asked for it. I don't like it.
How's that?
Well, you see, back home, every morning I have steak for breakfast. And there's 6 in the family, and every morning we all have steak for breakfast. You don't blame me, do you?
No, I don't blame you.
Well, I gotta be going. There's a cab waiting outside. You know, we gotta hire them by the night. Well, Sandy, take care of yourself. And keep your skirts clean. Guess I better blow.
I done that. Sure, I had to get rid of that soldier. He was too bad an example. Well, let's try our luck.
Evening, chum.
Good evening.
Sorry I'm late, old girl. Evening, Aggie. What are you going to have?
It's all right. Bill bought us one.
Oh, I'll have to go and buy me own. All right.
Father his mother up. What's yours, sir?
May I have a bitter, please?
Pint?
Oh, half pint's all right.
Thank you, sir.
How much?
7.5, please. Shilling. I'll bring your change.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Have you a lot? Oh, thanks. Want an American cigarette? Save 'em, huh? Just give 'em time. They'll come your way.
Well, there's that. Mine's a beer. 2 wallets. What's your bill? Hello, Bert. You're late. What are you going to have? I got my thanks. Oh, good. Have a game?
Of course. What do you think I came for?
Did you join us? Aye. Good partner. Awesome got partner. Come on, John. Me? No. Come on, no. And a wee while. I'll get somebody else. All right, I'll get somebody else. Like a game?
In a minute.
How about give a dart, Shank?
Well, I don't know this scoring, but I'll watch it once.
That's a good idea. Barney, come on. There you are. 40 here. Oh, good. Middle for diddle. Middle for diddle. Go on, Jack. Step up. Here you go. Put on the mark like that.
All right.
Take a good aim. Like Bennett, see? Just like that.
Good. Like baseball.
All right, just like baseball. Give you muscle. Been here long?
No, not very long. What about you?
Well, I'm just back myself. Sicily.
No? Been other places?
Why?
Where?
Dunkirk. Crete. El Alamein. That's when we started to go in the right direction. Forward.
Good.
Where'd you come from, mate?
Me?
And we are back with another episode of Before You Buy. Can you believe it? It's a show where we give you our first impressions and some gameplay of the latest games releasing. I almost forgot how to do the intro I've been saying for like 5 years now. It's me, Jake Baldito, and today we're talking about Outriders. This is the newest AAA release on the block. It's a third-person shooter adventure that can be played cooperatively online. There's lots of RPG character building, there's stats, and lots of loot. Does it sound familiar? Yeah, I thought so. But after playing it, it feels a bit different than I expected. Now, before we jump in, this footage is on Xbox Series X. The game is also available on PS5 and PC. Square Enix gave us early access to the game a full day before launch, so we've been dumping a lot of hours into it, and it is very clearly a game that gets better once you put more time into it. I wasn't really looking forward to this game too much. It looked a little bland, and I thought to myself, oh, another one of these? And I played the demo, and I thought it was okay, but after really getting deep into it, it's flawed but entertaining. It's a really, really weird game. It's a hot mess that's a good bit of fun. If you're not into games where you grind out gear, this might not be the one to change your mind or anything, but if you're into this stuff, or even mildly casually so, maybe at least try the demo, because it does some interesting things. Outriders pits you on this alien planet. You're scouting it out after humanity leaves Earth behind, and everyone is chilling in cryo-sleep. Things go wrong on the planet, weird stuff happens, of course, and then your character gets put in cryo on the planet and wakes up years later where humanity has landed and settled on this planet, but everything, of course, went not so good. So from there, you go on a location and biome hopping adventure that's like a weird mix between Mass Effect, Gears of War, and James Cameron's Avatar. There's a lot of focus on storytelling here, a surprising amount. It is like an actual, fairly linearly told story adventure. Lots of characters, lots of dialogue, lots of exposition building out this world, and if you want to find notes or talk to side characters and ask them more questions, you can. It all has moments where it's pretty cool and does a few interesting things, but ultimately feels like a series of whatever events, like where I keep finding myself going, what are we doing here? Oh, okay, shoot? Yeah, gotcha. But besides that, like, you jump in, you create your own character in a limited, not super satisfying character creator, but I gotta say, the character is my favorite part of the game's story presentation aspect. Your character has voice lines, you know, they speak, and they're charming, goofy, heroic, and kind of gruff in all the right ways. My character looks like this like meathead superhero, and he acts like one, damn it. And get used to it, because as of right now, during all the cutscenes and dialogue, there's no option to keep your helmet or headgear on during it, so you have to look at your goofy face. But I kind of learned to love it in a weird, charming way. My character reminded me of like a very 2000s character, but I liked it. But while this game is certainly an adventure, it's way more about the gameplay itself. The meat is the gameplay, my friends, and it's pretty fun. Third-person action arcadey style shooting here, and by arcadey, I mean less about realism and precision and more about just fun and challenge and chaos. You choose one of 4 substantially different character classes and get questing, looting, and shooting. I rolled with the Trickster, who has movesets specifically for zipping around, getting in close, getting some melee and close quarters damage, and zipping out. We've also experimented with the Pyromancer a bit, and playing with others and using our abilities in tandem, it seems like each style is significant, and it's nice to see. All of your, what they're called anomaly abilities, based around cooldowns, have their own use cases and scenarios for use, and all are pretty compelling of the character class experimenting I've done. I haven't really come across any unlocked abilities where I was like, oh man, I'm never gonna use that. No, like all of it seems good and nicely designed, and you can only choose between a few, so it's actually pretty tricky. The battlefield chaos, the shooting, and using powers is where the developers, People Can Fly, really have it locked down. You can kind of combo your way around a battlefield, and it's nice. Use one thing, stun some dudes, then knock them out with this other thing, or trap them while your friend sets them on fire, or just go crazy. Cooldowns are like almost non-existent, and even more so later on, and you can just use abilities a ton. It's a game that values aggressive play styles, and the anomaly abilities are definitely my favorite aspect. The shooting itself feels okay. You know, most guns' accuracy is extremely generous, and it's fun to have a crazy weapon that shoots ice or does some ridiculous thing feedback is decent enough, and what I do enjoy is a game like this where you can hip fire and look cool and be effective too. I love a game where you can hip fire a shotgun while running through a dude, no ADS required. It's always satisfying, and this game has tons of dudes and enemies that explode into guts. The cover system does leave a lot to be desired, though. It's not bad per se, it's just not as fluid or as snappy as I would want, especially when you're playing with a controller. You can awkwardly kind of screw yourself sometimes in cover, and it's just lots of enemies that constantly rush you. I just found myself using cover only in very specific instances. This game, and especially depending on what class you're using, they really want you out and about on the battlefield, using your things and racking up damage numbers. Yes, it's one of those games where you're constantly picking up color-themed loot and different levels of rarity and always selling or deconstructing and moving on to the next thing. At this point, these types of concepts make my eyes glaze over, dude. I'm totally tired of games with these systems. Yet,
Monster Hunter Rise.
and we're back with another episode of Before You Buy, that show where we give you some straight up gameplay and our first impressions of the latest games releasing. As usual, it's me, Jake, and it's been a minute since we've done one of these videos. How you guys doing? Thanks for stopping by. Today we're talking about Monster Hunter Rise. Thanks for your patience. We had to put some hours into this one. Now, this is the newest Monster Hunter game on the scene, and it's once again technically on a mobile device, the Nintendo Switch. But this time, it brings a lot of the tricks and vibe it learned from Monster Hunter World and has some new spins of its own. It's a completely new Monster Hunter game with new stuff, new areas, new mechanics, and if you're a Monster Hunter fan, I think you're gonna like it, especially if you love playing socially or just playing on the go. This feels like the kick-ass Monster Hunter 3DS games, but like bigger and badder. It's probably going to be one of the better Switch games ever at this point, just from early judgment, especially if you've never played a Monster Hunter before. It's an RPG unlike any other that you've played. Now, 2 quick notes. I am technically a bit of a newcomer to the series. Only really got in super deep and really appreciated the series with Monster Hunter World, and I've been hooked ever since. But I'm still no diehard pro, so if you see me or my colleagues in the gameplay here making some rookie mistakes and maybe not the most advanced tactics, there you go. I don't know. Now, Monster Hunter games require hours and hours and hours, so some of this gameplay is a little early, but we're just trying to keep you guys informed here. So what is Monster Hunter? Really, I think the biggest thing we should talk about first is Monster Hunter's gift, and maybe even curse, depending on who you ask. It's the learning curve itself. Monster Hunter is a deep, complex game that takes a long freaking time to grasp all the systems, but once you do, and you discover the true meaning of the gameplay loop, you get absolutely addicted, and it can be fun for like seemingly an endless amount of hours. The Monster Hunter formula remains here in Rise, and it's super strong. You craft, you eat, you upgrade, you plan, then you take out jobs, post it, and load into one of the few open biomes that are still seamless, and you hunt your monster. You typically have a set time limit before the monster leaves the area, and even if the time seems generous, some battles can go on for a really long time as the monster can be really strong, or you're underleveled, or it tends to retreat. So in between bouts, you're sharpening your blade, you're buffing yourself up, maybe setting some traps, or embracing the local flora and fauna for more buffs, which Rise really doubles down on in a nice way, picking up these bugs that'll give you a health boost, a stamina boost, stuff like that. So you jump into the fray and you embrace a bunch of different weapon types. Each weapon has its own great amount of depth and specific type of play style, and just lots to learn with it. Here, we're partial to the longsword, the insect glaive, and the switch axe. Each weapon, though, whatever it is, has a varying degree of challenge for wielding it, and the game embraces taking it slow, dodging, and striking at the right moment in the right spot. Something that clearly I'm not always the best at. But it can be incredibly satisfying, and only becomes more satisfying the deeper you get. Now, I said it with Monster Hunter World, and I'll say it again here. Once you get to the levels where you're grinding and you know your prey inside and out, the first time you sidestep a giant dinosaur and slam dunk his head with your giant sword, the game gives you an excellent adrenaline rush and definitely power fantasy vibes. But it makes you earn those moments through learning all of the game's deep systems. And the journey is satisfying. And I think, you know, like I said, they're not so great at onboarding, but it is what it is. If you really want to learn, you get over it. But the game just throws walls and walls of text explaining things to you, making the game seem overly and needlessly complex, but it's not really the case. But after a while, it can be overwhelming. But with this game, ultimately, like a lot of things in life, you just learn better by doing and throwing yourself into it. I think it's worth it. So I just want to say, if you jump into this game and the menus and the early tutorial stuff just really didn't work with you, keep going, keep trying, because it's worth it at the end of the rainbow. You're always grinding out slaying monsters, collecting their hides, and using stuff you get in the world to bring back and make cooler gear like armor sets and weapons. You're also getting gear and leveling up your helpful pet friends. There's a Palico, the cat who is surprisingly adept on the battlefield, and a Palamute, I think that's how you say it, which is kind of like a big dog or an anime direwolf. Also, you can pet him or her, and you can...
No matter what Jay Powell and his kind of band of merry men and women say about how we don't feel that we've created any wealth inequality, it's utter bullshit. Everybody looking at this can see exactly what you've done. It's a very short series of dots to join to prove that your monetary policy has led to stark wage disparity, to stark wealth disparity. The rich have gotten wholly richer. The poor have gotten far worse off. And for what?
Hey everyone, you're listening to On the Margin. I am your host, Michael Ippolito, and today we're going to be talking to Grant Williams, who's one of the original co-founders at Real Vision and currently runs Things That Make You Go, We cover a lot of really great macro-focused content in this conversation, ranging from Grant's early investing experience to what he thinks about central bank and the end game for money printing. We talk about his opinions on gold and Bitcoin. And finally, we talk about his framework for the fourth turning and some of the problems that America is facing as a nation, and just the general trend of people moving away from institutions and the impact that's having not just on markets, but on everyone's life. If you're listening to us on Apple, please make sure to give us a rating and a review. If you're listening on YouTube or Spotify, just hit that subscribe button. All right, here's the show. Mr. Grant Williams, welcome to On the Margin. I'm so excited to have you as a guest.
Hey, Michael, good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you as well. I feel like I've heard you interview so many folks at this point. It's great to get you kind of on the other side of the mic, so to speak.
Right, well, listen, so say that at the end of it, before the beginning.
Yeah,
There's a good reason why I sit in the other chair most of the time.
Yeah, I know. Find some wood to knock on, right? Well, look, thanks so much for taking the time to join me today. You know, I'd love to get into a lot of the stuff that you're working on right now, but I've heard you interview so many financial luminaries at this point. I would actually love you to give an overview of your own investing history and how you came to be interested in markets and investing in the first place.
Yeah, sure. You know, it was something that I was interested in at a very young age. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I knew what I wanted to be because I had a very cool uncle who was it turned out to be a foreign exchange trader. I didn't know what that was, but I wanted to be like him. So I decided that literally at the age of 8 or 9 that I wanted to be a foreign exchange trader. And so once I found out what that was, I realized it was the last thing I wanted to be. So I stayed as far away from foreign exchange as I possibly could. But
probably wise.
Yeah, but that was literally the genesis of it. And I just I was interested in finance. I was interested in that kind of world. My father worked for a small American merchant bank, so I was kind of involved or immersed in finance to some degree through him. But yeah, it was just something that I was interested in. I fell into. Luckily, I got offered a job right out of high school, and you know, I had an opportunity to go to university or take this job, and I realized that if I went to university 4 years later, I'd be trying to get the same job again. So I just thought, you know what? And back in the the early to mid 1980s, you didn't need a college degree to get a job. Certainly in the UK, I mean, it was probably different in the US, but university was the exception rather than the norm. So I turned down the university and took the job, and you know, have not spent one day regretting it ever since. And that was July 1985. I started work, and I had a job in the settlements department of a Japanese warrant trading business for a merchant bank called Robert Fleming & Co., long since swallowed up by JP Morgan, sadly. And they had a joint venture out in Asia with Jardine Matheson called Jardine Fleming. So I spent a couple of years in London, and really by being in the right place at the right time, managed to get myself a job on the trading desk within a year of starting. And was thrown in the deep end, had no idea what I was really doing, to be honest with you, and was learning the hard way every single day. And then Black Monday came along, which took me completely by surprise.
Must have been a ton of fun.
Well, yeah, it wasn't at the time, I can assure you. It was just it was shocking. I mean, it really was shocking. And I've spoken about this often, but seeing a market lose 22% of its value in one trading session was really just unbelievable to me. That's the equivalent today of what? Where are we down? 8,000 on the Dow or something like that in a single day. So yeah, that was something, and I think that had a big influence on my mindset throughout the rest of my career. Knowing that was a real possibility. These were in the days before the Fed put, obviously, when we had free markets. But I was involved in the Japanese market. I spent a few years in Tokyo, right at the height of the madness on the Nikkei. So I was in Tokyo when the Nikkei hit 39,000 on New Year's Eve, 1989. So I had a good, close look at that. And again, was still really figuring everything out. I mean, I was surrounded by a lot of really smart people, and I was by far the youngest guy there. So I just kind of tried to learn as much as I could from everybody around me. And I had some great mentors there, and made some really good friends. I'm still friends with 30 plus years later. And then went back to London for a brief period. After that, ended up in the US. So I was in the US for the bursting of the Nasdaq bubble. So again, I saw that up close in the last few months of its rise, and then went back to Asia and spent some time in Hong Kong, spent some time in Singapore, some time in Sydney, but always on the trading side for investment banks, and then ended up working in Singapore for a good friend of mine at a hedge fund, Vulpes Investment, for Steve Diggle. Again, learned so much more in those 3 or 4 years that I spent with Steve. It was another much steeper learning curve, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And then Real Vision kind of happened, and was Steve and I were going to go and raise another fund, and I had this itch that I wanted to scratch, and I realized that I couldn't do both. You can't manage people's money and do something else. It just wasn't the right thing to do. And Steve was fantastic. He said, "Look, I get it. If you want to go and do that, go. And if it doesn't work out, come back." But he was incredibly supportive and has been from that day to this. And so I just kind of went off on that tangent, followed that path for the next 5 or 6 years, and it opened up a whole new world of possibilities to me. A completely different career, completely different set of skills, none of which I had, for sure.
Hello, I'm Michelle McCoury. You're watching Kitco News, coming to you from New York, and I'm thrilled to be joined by Peter Schiff, founder and chief market strategist of Euro-Pacific Asset Management, best-selling author and renowned gold bug. Now, Peter, I've had the pleasure of interviewing you and getting your insights for years during my time at Bloomberg, CGTN, and I-24, and you were spot on several times. So I felt that it was only fitting that I have you join me for my debut on Kitco News. So thank you, and happy belated birthday, Peter.
Thanks, Michelle. I'm happy to be here and be your first interview on Kitco.
Yeah, harking back to my years at Bloomberg. Now, during my Bloomberg days, Peter, you were one of the very few that called it correctly ahead of the 2008 financial crisis. You cautioned against subprime mortgages and how the housing market was going to collapse, wreaking havoc across the financial system. And look, I mean, you were ridiculed by some at the time, but we all know how that turned out. And as bad as that was, yeah, you are now forecasting far, far worse. Now, we heard from Fed Chair Jerome Powell, and he's saying that he expects inflation to rise over the year, but that would be, quote, neither particularly large nor persistent. And he's saying long term, and I quote, we think the low inflation dynamics that we've seen for the past 25 years are still intact. Now, Peter, you have long been sounding the alarm over looming inflation. So what do you make of those comments? And when do you think we will see that inflation surge?
Well, first of all, just going back to Bloomberg, I don't know if you know this, but after, being on Bloomberg for years and forecasting the financial crisis, after the financial crisis occurred and I was, proven right. They banned me from their air. So I haven't been on Bloomberg for close to 10 years. So
well,
they
it
don't even
has
allow
been
me
a
on.
while. I haven't been on Bloomberg since 2010 myself. So it has been a while.
Yeah.
I wasn't banned, but I guess we both left around about the same time. But yeah,
Right.
look,
So
you
basically,
made a lot of correct calls then.
Right. And the Bloomberg audience is not getting the benefit of hearing my calls now because, Bloomberg itself doesn't want to, enable that.
But the
on your
Kitco
question,
audience is.
Yes, the Kitco audience is going to get much better information. And so I would not put any stock into what any Fed chairman says, because you always have to remember that these guys are there to tell a story and they always want to put a positive spin on everything. And even if they're concerned about something, they'll never admit it. Like when Ben Bernanke was at the Fed telling everybody not to worry about the mortgage market, subprime was contained. He later admitted in an interview after he was no longer Fed chair that he didn't really believe that. He was just simply trying to advance the administration's view that everything was great. And so he couldn't really speak his mind. He kind of had to act as if he was part of the Bush administration, which I thought was a very telling admission that not many people picked up on. But I think Janet Yellen, or now Jerome Powell, rather, at Fed, Yellen's at Treasury. But I think Powell also fancies himself part of that Biden administration. And so he wants to say positive things. He can't say, I think we're going to have really high inflation, because then, what is the Fed going to do about it? Well, you better raise interest rates. You better shrink your money supply. You better stop financing all these stimulus bills. So in order to validate their easy money policy, Powell basically has to say that any increases that we experience in consumer prices are just a temporary aberration. It's transitory, and don't worry about it. But I don't think that's the case at all. I think that what we're seeing now is the beginning of a very, very big acceleration in U.S. Consumer prices. Powell may think it's contained to a transitory event, but it's not. It's as much contained as the subprime crisis was contained. And I think the low inflation that we've enjoyed over the last 20, 25 years, I think a lot of that is through sleight of hand. I think that the CPI has actually gone, has not really reflected the extent to which prices have gone up. So I think we're understating the increase in consumer prices. But I think a lot of the temporary factors that were kind of mitigating the increases, because America was able to run these huge trade deficits. We were able to export our dollars to countries like China, and China would warehouse the dollars, recycle them into U.S. treasuries, and then replace them with consumer goods. The Chinese were producing all these low-cost consumer goods for Americans to buy, and the rest of the world was helping out. And so these factors were mitigating consumer prices, plus a lot of the liquidity, the inflation that the Fed was creating. It went into the stock market. It went into the real estate market, into the cryptocurrency market, into the bond market. So I think a lot of these bubbles, as they deflate, the money is ultimately going to go into consumer prices, commodities, and things like that. And so we're about to see a tsunami of inflation. And, whether the Fed is oblivious to it or just lying about it, there's no way to know.
Well, speaking of CPI, again, harking back to my past, I recall one of your very colorful analogies that stuck with me. And you said that having the government control the CPI data is like having the mob give a report on crime. So very effective messaging there, certainly gets the point across. So given we can't really trust the government with regards to the accuracy of where inflation is and where consumer prices are really headed, what do you use to make your assessment to figure out what the real rate of inflation is? And you say we're headed for a tsunami of inflation. When? I mean, that is the big question, Peter. When?
Yeah, well, in my mind, I think it's already started. I mean, you could look at some of these price increases, and they're very spectacular. And, they're just starting to work their way through the system. And again, I don't think we're transitioning or it's transitory unless you're saying we're transitioning from low inflation to high inflation, which is really what's happening. But what you want to look at to understand inflation is you look at the money supply, because it's the money supply that was being inflated. I mean, literally, that's where the word comes from. Inflation is to expand. You inflate, right? When something is inflated, it expands. Prices don't expand. They go up, they go down, but they don't expand. It's money supply that expands. And we have the most expansionary monetary policy in U.S. history. And no other era is even close to what we're doing right now. So this is massive inflation. And so to expect that prices are not going to respond by rising is ridiculous. But then you also have to look at the supply side of the equation, because as the Federal Reserve is dumping all this newly printed money onto the economy, there's actually less stuff for people to buy, because more and more people who used to be engaged in productive activities, whether they were producing goods or providing services, a lot of these people are now sitting at home collecting these government checks. So we're creating more money to buy goods, but we're producing fewer goods to buy. And so how can prices not go way up? I mean, anybody who doesn't think that prices are going to go way up, I mean, just not only don't they understand basic economics, they just don't even have any common sense.
Well, Peter, to your point, a lot of people sitting at home collecting unemployment benefits that pay them a lot better than their actual jobs. And of course, we've also got the highest excess savings in U.S. households that we've ever had. There's about $1.6 trillion in excess savings, U.S. savings at multi-year highs. So what happens when the economy is fully opened and all of that pent-up demand is released? I mean, to your point, more money chasing fewer goods. So is that when you expect the surge, when we have full economic opening?
Yeah, you remember, a lot of this money that people have saved was sent to them by the government. It's not like they earned more money and just didn't spend some of their increased earnings. The government just handed out this money. And yes, a lot of people haven't been able to spend it yet because they haven't got out of the house. And so they have bought a lot of goods. That's why our trade deficits in merchandise are at all-time record highs. So unemployed Americans have been able to shop on Amazon and buy, products made in China, but there's still a lot of other money that they haven't spent yet that was provided to them by the government. And also, we don't know to what extent are Americans not paying their rent, not paying their mortgages because of these moratoriums, and instead they're just holding on to the cash. So who knows, right? Because if you're told by your landlord, we can't evict you if you don't pay your rent, well, why pay it? I mean, I can live here for free. And so people could be accumulating this cash because they're not paying some of their bills. But yes, eventually, all of this hoarded cash is going to be spent. And if we're not producing more goods and services for the money to be spent on, then all it could do is bid up the prices on the goods and services that already exist.
So in this scenario, which you've described before, I mean, you're calling for an unprecedented economic disaster following this unprecedented stimulus, both in the US and globally. But what does that look like, Peter? Describe that in all the vivid, ugly details.
I don't know if I could describe it if it hasn't happened yet. I mean, we can look at other countries and how, they've dealt with these problems. But we're in a situation where we have so much debt. And in fact, Janet Yellen was asked a question today. I was watching her in a Q&A.
Right.
And the person questioning her said, hey, when you were Fed chair, you did warn that we had too much debt. And here you are now as Secretary of the Treasury, we have a lot more debt. I think it was 70% of GDP when she said it was a problem, and now it's over 100%. And that's just debt held by the public, not total debt.
Right.
The question was, why aren't you worried anymore about the debt? And, her answer to that question was that, well, interest rates are really low. And the reason it's not a problem is because the rates are so low. And so servicing the debt is not that big a burden given how low rates are. But it's unfortunate that the senator who asked her that question didn't follow up with a better question. What happens when interest rates go up? I mean, isn't it reckless and irresponsible to say we can afford all this debt because temporarily we have these low rates of interest, knowing that the national debt is financed mostly with short-term paper and the government has to constantly roll over these T-bills and, they're going to get the prevailing rate. Well, if you have this huge amount of debt and the only reason there's not a crisis is because interest rates are low, what happens if they're not low? What happens if interest rates are high? And I think that's the box the Federal Reserve is in, because the Federal Reserve knows the only thing between the U.S. government and default or insolvency is artificially low interest rates. So if the Federal Reserve knows if it raises interest rates, it bankrupts the government, how is the Federal Reserve going to fight inflation? Because if this pickup in inflation is not transitory, and obviously the longer the Fed waits to acknowledge it's not transitory, the bigger the inflation problem becomes. And so if inflation is at 5 or 6 or 7% officially by the time the Fed realizes that it wasn't transitory, how does it fight that inflation without bankrupting the U.S. government? The answer is it can't. So my thinking is if it can't fight inflation without bankrupting the U.S. government, it won't fight the inflation, which means it bankrupts the U.S. public because it destroys the value of the dollar.
So, Peter, what does all of this inflation, which, as you say, at some point or another has to kick in, mean for the dollar, and particularly for the dollar's status as the global reserve currency?
Yeah, well, I don't think it's going to mean the end of the dollar. I think it may mean the end of the dollar as we know it, as the world's reserve currency. And so a world in which the dollar is no longer the reserve currency is going to be a world in which the dollar buys a lot less. The purchasing power of the dollar, the exchange rate of the dollar relative to other currencies is going to depreciate substantially, especially when you consider how many dollars the Federal Reserve is going to be printing in order to enable all of this government spending. And remember, the only way the U.S. government can service the debt that it has is if the Federal Reserve provides the money, because they're never going to get it from the taxpayers directly through taxes. They're going to get it indirectly through inflation. So this is massive money printing and monetary debasement. And as the dollar collapses, so too will the American standard of living, because Americans have been living for generations now off of the exorbitant privilege of the U.S. dollar being that world's reserve currency. And that is the reason that we can get away with running these massive trade deficits. We can still consume a lot, but not produce a lot, because the rest of the world is willing to produce for us because they're willing to take the dollars that we print. But of course, it doesn't cost us anything to create dollars out of thin air, nor does it really transfer any real value to our trading partners. Now, right now it does if the dollar is the reserve currency, but if it's not the reserve currency, it's just a piece of paper. And if we don't produce products for them to buy, then there's no reason to hold that paper, and they won't. And so the prices are going to collapse of the dollar. But what that means is that all of the goods that we've been importing are going to be so expensive that very few Americans will be able to afford to buy them. And it also means that a lot of the stuff that we're now producing for domestic consumption a lot of those products will start being exported to people in other countries who now can outbid Americans for those goods because their currencies are much more valuable. So the whole American standard of living collapses.
All right, that's a very grim picture indeed. But look, to your point, mankind has debased hundreds of currencies through the centuries. I mean, the British pound, the Spanish peseta, even the Portuguese escudo were at one time or another in history as mighty as the dollar is today. So certainly very much within the realms of possibility. But what happens when and if the global economy loses faith in the dollar? What takes over as the global reserve currency, or what becomes the default then?
Well, first of all, before the dollar was the reserve currency, all those other currencies that you mentioned were backed by gold. I mean, they weren't just fiat. I mean, the dollar is the first currency in history to achieve that status as pure fiat currency, right? So there's no real money behind it. And so what I think is going to happen in a world where no central banks currently issue legitimate currency, right? Legitimate currency would be currency backed by gold, real money. That is the situation that the world was in before the dollar. And in fact, when the dollar originally became the world's reserve currency, it was backed by gold. In fact, it was redeemable in gold on demand. I don't think the dollar ever would have gotten that status in the first place, but for the tie to gold. And dollars were basically, or Federal Reserve notes were really IOUs for dollars, and the dollars were gold. That's what the dollar was. It was a weight of gold. And so in today, where nobody is actually issuing any legitimate currency, where every central bank has just got fiat, I think that when the dollar is no longer the main reserve for all those fiat currencies, they're not just going to pick another fiat currency to replace the dollar. It wouldn't make any sense to just go to the euro or to go to the yen, because at the end of the day, they're just paper too. I think the dollar's demise is going to introduce the remonetization of gold. Not that it was ever demonetized by central banks, because central banks all hold gold to some degree. But I think gold is going to replace the dollar as the primary reserve asset for all central banks.
All right. Well, of course, some would argue that that could be replaced by Bitcoin, but we'll get to that a little bit later on. But focusing on, because I know how you feel about that, Peter, but focusing on the dollar and gold. I mean, look, if we do go back to some kind of gold standard, the U.S. is arguably still the best position. The U.S. still has the highest gold reserves, lays claim to nearly as much gold as the next three countries underneath it combined. Granted, we do have China as the largest producer of gold, but it's currently ranked 6th in terms of gold reserves. So if there is this scenario, soaring inflation, de-dollarization, loss of faith in the greenback, which currency is in the best position to benefit from that?
Well, I definitely don't think it's the U.S. dollar, because the U.S. dollar enjoys the benefit of the dollar
even with
being
all those
reserve
gold
currency.
reserves backing it? Even as being top of the list of gold reserves?
Yes, because first of all, maybe they don't even have as much gold as is claimed. I don't know when the last time there was an independent audit of Fort Knox. So the government can claim they have a certain amount of gold, you know, whether or not you want to believe them. But let's assume that they're being honest. How long will they be able to hold on to that gold? Because we're going to now have to start paying for our imports with gold, right? We have a huge trade deficit. And our trading partners, if we don't have real goods, we're going to have to ship some gold out to pay for our imports. So it's not like the gold supply is going to last very long in the world that we have now. And also the U.S. government, you know, if they're going to run deficits, where are they going to, you know, they're going to have to start spending gold. I mean, right now, all they have to do is print money. So if the government wants something, they just need to print money and they can get it. But in the new world, where gold is the reserve, if they want something, they need the gold to pay for it, right? They either have to tax the citizens and get, you know, their gold, which is, you know, backing their currency, or they're going to have to, you know, start dipping into their reserves. So the U.S. gold reserve can be depleted very quickly if we need that gold to pay for things. See, right now we don't need anything to pay for anything. America is the biggest beneficiary of this dollar standard, because let's say you take a small country, let's say you take New Zealand, right? If New Zealand wants to import, it has to export. It can't just print. The New Zealand dollar isn't the reserve currency, so it has to earn dollars in order to buy things that are dollar denominated. We don't have to earn anything. We just print them. But if we have to start earning, just like everybody else, the other countries, it's not going to make a difference to New Zealand whether they have to earn dollars or earn gold. They still have to earn that reserve. It only makes a difference to the United States because now we go from printing something to earning something, and it's a lot harder to earn than to print.
All right, well, Peter, if the dollar does indeed suffer some form of a collapse, to your point, then it stands to reason that emerging markets that owe dollar-denominated debt and that have rich commodities would benefit. So do you agree with that? Do you think that emerging markets would be best positioned to benefit from a de-dollarization?
Well, absolutely. I think those markets have the most to gain by the collapse of the dollar. And I think that they have shared a disproportionate burden in supporting the dollar. Because, if Americans are living beyond their means, which they clearly are by virtue of the reserve currency and these massive deficits. So if American citizens are living beyond their means, that means citizens in other countries, by definition, must be living beneath their means to make this possible. And I think it's the emerging market consumers that are bearing the brunt of that subsidy. And so when the dollar collapses and Americans are no longer living above their means, which means Americans aren't consuming nearly as much stuff, then who's going to get to consume the stuff that Americans are now too poor to buy? I think a lot of those new consumers are going to be found in the emerging markets. So, it's like a giant weight is lifted from their shoulders, and now they're in much better shape.
All right, so how do you play that? You're saying it's not an if, it's a when the dollar collapses. Emerging markets are going to benefit. So how do you position yourself as an investor to benefit from that? Which countries, which sectors within those countries are appealing to you?
Yeah, well, we own emerging market stocks. We manage an emerging market fund, so people can invest with me through my emerging market fund or directly where we manage portfolios and we have individual exposures. But yes, you're also correct. We have exposure to resources, those sectors in particular. Some of those companies that we own are in emerging markets, but a lot of them are in developed markets, but their customers are in emerging markets.
Can you name any of those for us? Can you get into the specifics here? Which markets and which particular sectors?
People can go to, Morningstar and take a look at our funds and look at the holdings and kind of see a list of some of the stocks that we own in the emerging markets or the other funds. But obviously, I try to look for countries that are, in general, less fiscally irresponsible than the U.S. So I like countries where the taxes are lower, but the government spending is lower. And the budgets are balanced, where you have a trade surplus, not a deficit, a current account surplus. I like to see fewer regulations and more economic freedom in the countries I invest. I mean, the freer people are, the more productive they're going to be.
Which countries would those be? I'm going to push you on this one, Peter. Which countries?
Well, you can guess the countries. I mentioned New Zealand, as one of them, but Hong Kong, Singapore, Switzerland. I mean, there are other countries where, there's actually a lot of countries at this point that are freer than the United States. But you can look at the index of economic freedom and see some of those other jurisdictions.
All right. You're dodging the which emerging markets and particularly which sectors question, but I'm going to let it go because it's our first reunion in a while. I do want to get your thoughts on what we're hearing from Ray Dalio, founder of Bridgewater. He's right there with you, sounding the alarm on inflation, telling people to buy stuff and saying that cash is trash. He's also very concerned about what he calls shocking tax policies, saying that, look, policymakers aren't just going to like these capital movements out of debt assets and into other storeholds of wealth. So they could very well impose prohibitions against capital movements to other assets like gold and Bitcoin, and that we could be in for some very shocking tax changes. Do you expect that? Do you see tax changes to gold?
Well, look, when governments are desperate, they do desperate things. And at this point, I don't think there's any reason for them to panic. But in the future, if Dalio and I are correct, let's say, about what's going to happen to the dollar, as more and more Americans become cognizant of the risk of inflation, they will take action to protect themselves, right? And ways that they do that are by buying gold or by buying foreign assets, getting into foreign currencies. Some people may do that by buying Bitcoin. I think that's a mistake, but some people may do that. And so if you look at inflation as a tax, which is really what it is, right? Because the government, they can either take your money officially as a tax, right? Or they can just print money, but then they're taxing you by inflation because
get some limits here. If this starts moving, I'm just going to switch over to market and eat that up. There we go. Come on up. Boom. Ate them up. Got 86,000 locked in. Another 100K or so to go. And I might leave a couple mil in to ride out, just in case. Take what the market gave me. 200K, not bad for a day. We've done more, you know, we've made more, but you know.
He just closed 150K. He's not dumb, bro. I'm gonna ban this guy. Sometimes people gotta sleep or take a break or whatever. Everyone's in their own situation, so.
I'm eating up that order right there. Oh, it looked like I was gonna be able to catch this knife going to the upside and get some limit out, but I saw it coming down, so I just took it myself there on market. Switching between limit and market. Limiting when I can, marketing if I need to. Boom. So, knife for a second. Take that.
Is there a limit on like how big an order can be? Is it $1 million?
Bucks.
Damn, so you've kind of been forced to learn how to piecemeal in and out of these fat positions.
Yep.
I think if you guys trade like that, you might see more success if you like kind of teams up.
Yeah, I always say it, spread it out. Don't go all in one time, all out one time.
Yeah, you don't just want to like flop in and grope out on market order. You guys should try not to get liquidated. It's like a high impact risk. You can't let trades fall under your entry. You know, that means you're gonna hold a shit back.
All right, we got 150 grand locked in. I'm gonna leave this 2 mil on the board for now, and we're gonna shut the stream down and relax, play some video games, and yeah, good trade, good stream. Anything else you want to say before we go?
Nah, man, good stream. Thanks for watching, guys.
All right, peace.
The Ballad of the Level Boost. You guys ready? Here we go. That's good. I'm gonna resize it.
Now, I know what you're thinking. You see the title, you see the video duration, and you're like, oh god, it's finally happened.
Yep.
He's gone postal. No worries, I'm fine. Honestly, it's just a big change with the game, so naturally, it warrants a big video, that's all.
Yep.
So, as you may know, the level boost was announced for TBC Classic recently. There's been a lot of discussion surrounding it, and I wanted to weigh in myself here.
Okay.
I want to go on record here saying that I didn't want to make this video. I know that's like the biggest cliche on YouTube.
Me too, because I'm
but
lazy.
Really, it's true. This is an unpleasant subject for me. The discussion surrounding it is very toxic.
Yes.
I know it's going to make a lot of people.
I think that the conversation around it has been really toxic too. The reason why I think that it's been really toxic is because people have been able to portray the different positions as basically they've like mischaracterized them in a negative way. So they say that the streamers that are for it are just for it because they're out of touch losers, and generally there's like a large contingency of like the classic WoW community that just reflexively dislikes streamers. So I think that it makes it very easy for them to kind of paint people in a bad light and then vilify them in that way. And I think on the other side it's obviously like lazy casuals.
Angry. And to that end, just keep in mind, it is my opinion, and it isn't meant to make anyone angry.
Well, it did.
Anyone who's a regular to the channel can probably guess that I'm against it.
Yeah.
In general, I'm not a fan of cash shops. They do work, and they make sense in some games, but I personally think that they don't in Classic, as I'll explain. But whatever the case is, I want to stress constructiveness in this video. I said that there's...
What? Is that Mr. Dog?
Hi. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that.
Yep.
As I was saying, I said that there's been a lot of discussion about it, but really, it's more just arguing and toxicity. It's hard to find a discussion where people are debating the points. It seems to me that people are more debating that they're 100% correct, and
Yeah.
the other party is 100% incorrect,
I would've
which
nev-
usually isn't the way the world works.
Apparently Mad Season doesn't go on Twitter.
Like, I guarantee that there's a certain percentage of people who just heard me say that I'm against the boost, so the switch has flipped on,
Yep.
and they're thinking that Anything and everything this guy could possibly say is irrelevant
Is wrong.
and incorrect.
That's right.
It literally doesn't matter what I could say. It could turn out that foregoing the level boost would lead to world peace and pure happiness for everyone on Earth. There would still be those who would reply, yeah, but that's not fair to those who don't have time to level. Stop being selfish, you nerd.
Yep.
Well, really, let's be honest here. That's not a discussion. I've invested what some would consider an unhealthy amount of time thinking about and researching this topic.
I mean, like, if there's a way to invest an unhealthy amount of time into something WoW related, Mad Season has probably not only done it, but then made a video that he's invested an unhealthy amount of time in making the video about doing it and the process of doing it. So, yes, this is accurate.
In the past 3-ish weeks, I've been reading forums, talking one-on-one with Blizzard developers, streamers, YouTubers, players, the works. And if you truly care about the game as much as a guy who spent approximately 120 hours of his life making a 1-hour video about the recreation of a 15-year-old video game, you listen to my points just as much as I've listened to yours.
Yeah, okay.
So I just wanted to put it out here that the overall goal of this video is to have an actual discussion about a pretty major feature coming to DBC Classic. The biggest thing is to not take it personally. The goal of this video isn't even to necessarily sway your opinion, it's to let you know exactly what you're getting with the level boost, because it's not just a level boost. It comes with many strings attached, and these strings have the potential to tear down core design pillars that make Classic World of Warcraft Classic World of Warcraft.
I agree
Is it
with
this world-ending thing? Of course not, but at the end of the day, this is a paid service in a game that didn't have it back then, that wasn't designed with it in mind, and that it will indeed have cascading effects, as I'll explain.
I agree with
so
that.
Forgive me for the extra long intro, but I just wanted to front load it with all of this because, as I've said, it's been a rather nasty and sensitive...
The thing is, like, the people are so fucking nuts nowadays, he has to actually start the video out with a 3-minute disclaimer. Like, he has to. Like, or there's gonna be like a million hate threads about it.
Subject. This year's BlizzCon revealed many details about the highly anticipated recreation of Blizzard's hit 2007 expansion to World of Warcraft, the Burning Crusade.
Those were the
and
days.
The word of the day is changes. Video game re-releases are always tricky because there's a special balance that you want to hit in recreating the original game, but at the same time sticking true to what made it special. And as hard as that is, it's even harder for MMOs because you always have that multiplayer aspect. What other people do has an effect on your gameplay, either directly or indirectly, so from the get-go, developers are in this dilemma. Many of us saw in Vanilla Classic the repercussions of staying
Casty,
too true to the original.
Thanks for 10 subs.
No changes method in an attempt to preserve the original experience as much as possible.
I hate to say it, but like one of the coolest things in Classic is everybody taking the Griffin at the same time. I think that's fucking badass.
Sabotaged in some ways as they learned that recreating the game versus recreating the experience are two very different things.
Very
and you
true.
saw this in the form of world buffs, raid logging, and the general easy difficulty of raid.